Chapter 1365. At a glance, the entire cliff was like a huge qilin leaping into the sky. Its horns were lofty and its scales were clear. The cliff wasn't very high. It was only a few thousand feet high, but it went straight into the sea. In the middle of the cliff, there was a faint yellow light shining slightly. Countless intertwining divine senses seemed to be dispersing from the qilin cliff. Zhuoxiao Duo firmly remembered what Taoist Duo Bao said. On the qilin cliff, in the middle of the cliff, there is a golden post. You only need to use your hammer and smash it with all your strength. Zhuoxiao Duo wasn't a fool. He naturally knew that with this hammer smash, he would probably get into huge trouble and form a huge karma. But the biggest problem was, could he not smash this hammer? He could not smash it. This debt was very easy to calculate. If he didn't smash it, the owner of the post wouldn't have a good impression of him. Instead, it would leave a knot in the heart of the existing ally or even a grudge. But if he smashed it, not only would the alliance become more stable, but the person who was saved by his hammer would also owe him a big favor. What's more, the other side might not be really angry. Even if they were angry, they might not vent it on him. Besides, who was the one who posted this post? Even if they vent their anger on him, what did he have to be afraid of? Who cares? Not to mention allies, he was also one of the most powerful princes in the world. The Sky Patrol Minister was his father. The Flood Witch was his godfather. You dare to find trouble with me? Let my godfather hammer you first. Let's see if you can take it or not. I've long wanted to try the unscrupulous second generation of cultivation. My father is a big shot. Don't you want to try? Therefore, Zhuoxiao Duo really didn't feel any pressure in his heart. He even had the idea of going on a scenic tour. He came here and smashed the hammer. What a simple matter. Didn't he already see the pornographic post? Wasn't this where the goal was? As long as he hammered it down, wouldn't it be easy and happy to complete it? There was no one around. Between heaven and earth, it was quiet. Only the waves were raging and surging, wave after wave. It reminded Zhuoxiao Duo of his wedding night. He couldn't help but let out a heroic spirit that soared to the heavens. He recited, "Pa pa 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 pa, the waves are coming from the shore. The waves are coming from the shore, it's really scary, the white waves are surging up to the sky, walala 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 pa pa pa, it makes me happy in my heart, ha 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 ha, my wife and I are really free and easy, really free and easy." Good poem. Now that she knew Zhuoxiao was background, the Zhuoxiaonian was furious. Get back to work. Go back now. Stop pretending. Okay. Zhuoxiao Duo did not dare to say anything. Instead, he pulled out his 99 kitty hammer. At this moment, the 99 cat hammer's elegance was even more profound than before. The yin and yang halos flowed, white light and black gas lingered, and the Tao was completely natural. The universe, the sun, and the moon only rotated slightly, and it was as if they were about to fly out of the hammer. The unprecedented fiendish aura had already reached its peak, and it looked down on all living things. Who could resist it? Zhuoxiao Duo roared majestically and soared up to the sky. In a flash, he was already in the sky above the flickering yellow light. One hammer pointed to the sky and the other to the ground. He shouted, "Look at me, the 99 kitty hammer of universe, sun and moon." This roar was not only full of momentum, but it was also the first time he shouted the full name of the 99 kitty hammer. All the spiritual energy in his body was running to the limit, and he also sent out the power of the divine sense and the power of the soul. Finally, he combined it with the power of providence. The four mixed forces were all condensed on the hammer head. Thousand Souls Nightmare Hammer. In 1/10 of a second, all the moves of the hammer technique were swung continuously like a storm. Then all the strength and power were condensed into the hammer. It was really mixed with the extreme power of the universe, and it crashed down. It crashed on the yellow light's post. Boom. With a sudden explosion, the yellow light reacted instantly and shot out billions of dazzling golden lights. It was a strong counterattack. Oh yeah. Ouch! Zhuoxiao Duo turned into a shooting star along with his hammers. He was blasted away for God knows how many kilometers by the tremendous force. Because he couldn't bear the force, he couldn't even hold on to the two hammers and they flew out of his hands. Fortunately, Bai and Jiu drove the hammers back automatically. Wah wah wah. Zhuoxiao Duo spat out more than 10 mouthfuls of blood as if they were free. Then he passed out. Before he passed out, his last thought was, fuck. This is just a post? Just a post. It seems that the 99 kitty hammer can't be called by its full name. Zhuoxiaonian reacted quickly. She rushed out and caught Zhuoxiao Duo, who was in midair. Ice and snow spiritual energy surged into his meridians. Then she poured a large number of elixirs and the 2 bottles of spiritual liquid she just received into Zhuxiaoduo's mouth. The rich power of the providence points rushed into Zhuxiaoduo's meridians and traveled through his limbs and bones. His injuries were stabilized in an instant. He opened his eyes. Fuck. On the other side, billions of yellow lights launched a strong counterattack. The yellow post fluttered back and forth in the air for a moment. Then, with a boom, it suddenly exploded and turned into powder. At the last moment when the yellow post turned into powder, there was an extremely dazzling yellow light. The endless yellow light was like a sun that suddenly exploded in the sky. It directly lifted the entire sea area into the sky. The entire Qilin cliff collapsed with a boom. The natural Qilin statue with towering horns that had existed since ancient times shattered inch by inch and fell into the sea. Huge waves surged. Rocks pierced the clouds. The scene was extremely chaotic. The next moment, or perhaps the next moment, there was a clear whistle. A white figure gracefully flashed out from the bottom of the Qilin cliff. Bang, bang, bang. Several invisible chains broke one by one as the white figure moved. It was like a mantis trying to stop a chariot, or a mayfly trying to shake a tree. In the sky, the wind blew and the white clouds gathered. For a moment, the whole world was filled with white and flawless white clouds. It was clean, holy, noble, and elegant. A gentle voice said, "I wonder which fellow cultivator helped me this time? I can't thank you enough. Yunxiao is here to greet you." Although he had been suppressed for countless years, his voice was still as gentle and courteous as ever, elegant and graceful. Zhuxiaoduo coughed and spat out blood. He bent over with a pale face and rolled his eyes. "What kind of post is this? That guy Duobao didn't tell me that the recoil would be so strong." He staggered and swallowed a mouthful of blood. "It almost took half of my life. This hammer is really fucking strong." Yunxiao smiled slightly and floated down. She was tall and slim, but she had a strong ethereal aura. Regardless of appearance and temperament, she was like a spring orchid and autumn chrysanthemum with Zhuxiaoyan. They both had their own strengths. "Thank you for your help, fellow Taoist. You helped me escape, but I've made you suffer." Zhuxiaoduo finally caught his breath. "Big Sister Yun, you don't have to be polite. I was entrusted by someone. It's just that my cultivation level is low and I can't withstand the counterattack of that post. However, Zhao's pain can help Big Sister Yun escape. It's worth it." "May I ask who asked you to do this?" Yun Zhao's eyes flashed with urgency. "Big Brother Duobao asked me to come and smash this hammer." Zhuxiaoduo said, "He also said that when you escape, immediately return to the Green Turing Palace. There can't be any delay." "Big Brother Duobao? Green Turing Palace?" Yun Xiao felt as if she had been struck by lightning. They have all returned. Jie School has been re-established a few days ago. They are all waiting for you," Zhuxiaoyan explained with a smile. Her smile faintly flowed with an inexplicable calming effect. When one saw her smiling face, they immediately felt that the world was infinitely beautiful. The years were peaceful and good. They've all gone back. Jie School. Yun Xiao took a deep breath excitedly. "Thank you. I'll go back now." She could not wait any longer when she heard the good news today. As soon as she finished speaking, her body floated and disappeared in the blink of an eye. However, in the next moment she appeared in front of the two of them again. Her face was filled with shame as she said embarrassedly, "I just escaped and heard good news. Yun Xiao owes the two of you a lot. However, I really don't have anything to offer now. The two of you. I'll repay your kindness in the future." In this life, Yun Xiao will never forget this kindness. Yun Xiao bowed seriously. "Fellow Taoists, may I know your names?" "My name is Zhuxiaoduo. This is my wife, Zhuxiaoyan." "Thank you, both of you." Yun Zhao's body flashed past. A white cloud landed beside Zhuxiaoyan's temple and turned into an ice jade flower. It was sparkling and reflecting the seven-colored light of glass. It was a spectacle. "Thank you, Sister Little Nian. I'm very ashamed. My heart is in turmoil and my mind is in a mess. I can only report everything later." She bowed elegantly again. "We'll meet again. This place is very dangerous. Fellow Taoists, it's better for you to leave this place quickly." After saying that, she waved her hand and tore through space with a crack. She rushed towards the East Ocean. The space that she had torn apart did not recover immediately. Instead, it cracked all the way to the sky above Qilin Cliff. With a crisp crack, the Buddhist light restriction that Randeng had set up exploded. The trace of origin soul imprint that was attached to it suddenly exploded. All the karma in this place had been directly erased. There was no trace left. But this time Yun Zhao's graceful figure had completely disappeared. Amazing. Zhou Xiaoyan widened her eyes. She vaguely felt that this Sister Yun Zhao's cultivation strength might be above Sister Yun's Guiling. How many shocking figures were there in this primordial world? After this trip, Zhou Xiaoduo and Zhou Xiaoyan felt a little depressed. Originally, they thought that they had already broken through to the zenith heaven and officially reached the top of the cultivators in the 3 continents. Even if the continents returned and the ancestral land regained its light, as a zenith heaven cultivator, they could still be considered a top figure in this world. Zhou Xiaoduo had even fantasized countless times. The next time he returned to Phoenix City, what posture should he use when he acted cool? Or should he use a few more positions? With his hands behind his back and a reserved and humble smile on his face, he walked into Phoenix City's No. 2 high school and smiled faintly at teacher Qin Fangyang, who had always wanted to beat him up. I'm lucky to have broken through to the zenith heaven. When he thought of that scene, Zhou Xiaoduo could not help but feel so excited that he wanted to pee. Oh. Let's have another round of laughter for old Qin to hear. I, your student, am laughing heartily? Do you still want to beat me up? Do you still want to pick me up by the back of my neck and swing me around? Or should I go to the Tao League to find trouble with someone? Yes, I'll definitely go to the Forest of 10,000 Spirits. I'll let Elder One see my progress. He said very modestly and reservedly, recently my progress has been quite slow. I've only reached the zenith heaven. I'm ashamed. But now, the scene that he had fantasized about countless times was no longer pleasant. Chapter 1366. After this round, not only did Zhou Xiaoduo suffer a huge blow, but even Zhou Xiaoyan felt dejected. What? Does it seem like everyone I met here is stronger than me, much stronger than me? Oh, how can this be? For example, Sister Yun, the Holy Mother of Turtle Spirit, Kong Xian, Duobao, and Yun Xiao. Every one of them is much stronger than me. Moreover, after communicating with them and listening to their words, there were still a lot of cultivators who were at the same level as them in this world, even if they were not everywhere. What do you think I should do? After others break through to the zenith heavenly realm, they are at the peak of this world and can go to the ends of the world to show off. However, when I break through to the zenith heavenly realm, I am at the ends of the world. Be shown off? What the fuck, that I don't even have the strength to complain. I worked so hard and painstakingly cultivated to the zenith heavenly realm, just to be shown off by others? This was simply intolerable. Even if the uncle could tolerate it, the aunt could not tolerate it. Xiaoduo, I have a question in my heart. I don't understand why Brother Duobao would call you junior brother, but you didn't admit it, Zhou Xiaoyan asked curiously. According to Zhou Xiaoduo's character, he would pluck a handful of wool from a sheep. He had long been used to climbing along the pole. This was very abnormal in itself. It was not just a little strange, it was simply too strange. Brother Duobao called us junior brother and sister because of the 2 prayer mats. We listen to the preaching of the Prime of Heaven, and we have a relationship that far surpasses that of others. I didn't agree mainly because I was afraid and didn't dare to agree. Zhou Xiaoduo said honestly, I was really a little scared at that time. Even now when I think about it, I'm still a little scared. Yes, I'm scared. The fear that comes from the depths of my soul. Zhou Xiaoduo let out a long sigh. If I don't admit it, I can only call you that in private when we meet. However, if I admit it, the end result will definitely be known by the world. The identity of a disciple of the Jie school will be firmly engraved on you and me. However, my most fundamental identity is that of the human race. Our Father is the heaven inspecting minister. If I agree to it on the spot, it's very likely that I'll drag the entire continent of astral souls into their grudge. How would I dare to agree so casually? Zhou Xiaoduo sighed. He felt that the reason why Duobao didn't give him a gift was probably because he didn't agree to it. That guy was so stingy. On the way back, the more Zhou Xiaoduo thought about it, the more depressed he became. Not only was he attacked everywhere, but he also didn't get many treasures. Later on, he was so upset that he dragged Zhou Xiaoyan into the Tower of Annihilation to cultivate with her for 3 months. Only then did he feel better. Zhou Xiaoyan was speechless and had no choice but to cooperate. You're just looking for a reason to do that, alright? When one was happy, one had to celebrate. When one was frustrated, one had to vent. When one won a battle, one had to celebrate. When one lost a battle, one had to console. When one was scolded, one had to console. When one was beaten, one had to console. Anyway, no matter what it was, in the end, one had to. Cough. Forget it. I can see that you're such a lazy guy in your bones. However, even someone like Zhou Xiaoyan, who boasted that she understood Zhou Xiaoduo well, did not guard against such things. Once she broke through, she would only break through again and again. There was no such thing as a lower limit. Therefore, Zhuoxiaoduo even brought out the reason that he was tired from the journey and wanted to rest. He stopped all the way. He rested a few times, vented a few times, comforted a few times, and then celebrated a few times. Of course, there were also a few sparring sessions with real swords and spears. Zhuoxiaonian was now facing Zhuoxiaoduo and once again entered the state of invincibility that she hadn't seen for a long time. Through this competition, Zhuoxiaoduo finally understood how powerful the equipment that Tong Tian and Duo Baoduo had given him was after being fully equipped from head to toe. To give a simple and straightforward example, as long as the defense of these treasures was activated, even if Zhuoxiaonian stood there motionless, Zhuoxiaoduo would need more than an hour to break through it with the Thousand Souls Nightmare Hammer. In this way, Zhuoxiaoduo naturally fell into the mode of being abused again. And this result made him feel that it was too fucking unfair. What the hell is this? You gave Nian Yanmao a gift, but I didn't give her anything. This is too unreasonable. At home, my parents helped Nian Yanmao to bully me. And when I went out, everyone I met seemed to have made an agreement to help Nian Yanmao deal with me. Is there any place in this world where I can be reasonable? Oh heavens, oh earth, oh heavenly law, please open your eyes and save the pitiful me. Of course, as Zhuoxiaonian and Zhuoxiaoduo continued to gain benefits and opportunities, the prime of Tong Tian and the prime of Tong Tian continued to gain benefits and opportunities. On the other side of the three continents, the Flood Witch, who was in the secret land of the Wu people, felt very good. She felt that her power of providence was constantly overflowing. The looming path in front of her had become a bright and smooth path without any obstacles. Her strength had also increased by leaps and bounds, and it led the 12 shamans to advance by leaps and bounds. Zhuochanglu and Wu Yuding also felt the same. During the rare break in the battle, the two of them also felt that their providence was bursting. It was as if the heavenly Tao was greatly helping them, and they had crossed all the small bottlenecks in their cultivation journey effortlessly. Although he hadn't caught up with the Great Flood Witch yet, compared to the previous stagnation, there had been a tremendous change. Yu Xingqian, the star-plucking monarch who had originally fought with Zhuochanglu, was now far from being a match for Zhuochanglu. Regarding the current situation, whether it was the 5 swords of the Tao League, the Astral Souls, or the Wu people, they were all pleasantly surprised. They had originally thought that with the return of the 6 continents, the 3 continents of the Astral Souls would not be able to resist and would definitely be finished. But who would have thought that after everyone had returned, even before the 3 sides had prepared to do anything, 5 of the 6 continents that had returned had unanimously focused their attention on the demon race. The demon race had become the target of public criticism in the first second after their return. With the demon race restraining the other forces, the Wu people, the Tao race, and the Astral Souls unexpectedly obtained a rare period of peace. Well, it was more or less a mistake not to mention this, because the Tao League was not in a state of peace. Instead, it was vaguely participating in the checks and balances of various forces. And the more direct reason was that with the appearance of the mighty figures of various races, the first disciple of the Tao race's sage, Guang Qingzi, also reappeared in the mortal world. And he was not the only one. Taoist mighty figures such as the immortal elder of the South Pole, Yun Zhongzi, Tai Yuding, Huanglong, Qijingzi, Taoist master numinous treasure, heavenly lord of Taoist conduct, pristine void, and Taoist lord of Tao and virtue all reappeared in the mortal world. Once they reappeared, heaven and earth shook. The Tao League's continent shone brightly. Mountain gates hidden in the void opened one after another. Countless famous mountains and rivers were released from their seals. Perfect jade void perfected lord. There were exactly 10 of them. They stood in 10 different directions, forming an impenetrable wall around the entire Tao League's continent. Compared to the powerful reappearance of the primordial mighty figures in the Tao League, the ancient human mighty figures still did not appear. The humans of the Astral Souls could not help but lose hope once again. In a secret place. Are we just going to watch? The human race has experienced countless calamities before they can become the main characters of the world. The heavens move vigorously, and the gentleman strives to improve himself. We, the pioneers of the human race, are not the saints of the human race. We are ashamed to be called saints. We can't feel at ease. That's right. Everything was obtained by the later generations who struggled to survive and fought for the heavenly Tao. All we need to do is watch in silence. As long as it's not the time to be destroyed, there's no need for them to do anything. If it's really the time to be destroyed. When that time comes, we 8 old bones will abandon our smelly bodies. I believe that we can protect the human race from the heavenly Tao and reproduce. All right. Yes, if we appear now, I'm afraid it won't be good. In terms of combat strength, we are inferior to the saints. If we appear rashly, we will make the current generation of humans rely on us. They will inevitably lose their determination to improve and their future will be bleak. If we don't appear, we will always have a backup plan. The races will have concerns and will not go too far. Yes. In that case, how about we visit the goddess? Alright, let's go together. Leave behind an avatar and pay attention to the movements of the human race. Under the calamity, life and death are easy to come by. We have to be careful. No matter how careful we are, it's not too much. Of course. The two of them walked leisurely in the 9 heavens. Master Chanjia is moving again. Let him be. Your seal has been shattered. Yun Xiao escaped and reappeared in the mortal world. In the heavenly courts, Yun Xiao's incarnation that was conferred the god has already dissipated. It no longer exists. Let him be. The cow has also run away. It seems to have returned to third Uncle Master. Let it be. Master, where are we going? Follow. Follow me. Master, in the previous God-conferment tribulation, countless living beings died. However, it was still a tribulation in the end. There was a chance of survival. However, this time, it has turned into a death tribulation. I'm afraid that the blood of the two of you will splatter in the blue sky. Let him be. Master, you. Alright. Master, back then do about your scheme. That question was met with silence. Master, I really can't feel at ease. The various grudges back then have been fermenting for so many years. They are already out of control. I want. Follow me. Back then, Master, as a saint, helped me eliminate the calamity. I'm grateful for it. However, karma still exists. There will be a day when it will be resolved. Now that the calamity has begun again, the heavenly secrets have fallen into chaos again. How can I know that karma will be resolved? Let him be. Master, did the Tao ancestor arrange for this cataclysm? This time, the old Taoist priest who was asked was silent for a while. After a long time, he opened his eyes and said slowly, "No." The question was immediately stagnant. Could it be that the heavenly Tao evolved on its own? No. Chapter 1367. The person who asked the question was completely stunned. Master? Master. I'm afraid you are in danger of dying in this great tribulation. As the saying goes, a prophecy has come true. Why are you talking about karma? The old Taoist priest hit his disciple with a yellow light and imprisoned him. Back then, your third Uncle Master gave a strict order to prevent his disciple from entering the calamity. However, the heavenly Tao operated and karma caused it. In the end, it was useless. This time, I have accepted your third Uncle Master's lesson and decided to tie you to my side. I will not let you leave at all. I want to see if karma can shake the saint's personal suppression. Master. Perhaps the great tribulation is not up to the heavens. The old Taoist priest said calmly, however, I can tie someone up and leave. Golden lightning flashed in front of him. The old Taoist priest led his disciple and slowly floated into the golden lightning. However, he was protected by the boundless heaven and earth chi. He was unharmed as he passed through. Master, where are we going? To the outer space. Outer space? Only in the outer space can we avoid this calamity. I don't understand. As he spoke, countless spatial barriers were broken one by one. The master and disciple finally stood outside the galaxy. Looking around, all they could see was a land of primal chaos. The old Taoist priest finally smiled. We're out. We're finally out. Master, this. What? Since we're out, there's no harm in saying anything else. The old Taoist priest turned around and looked at the densely packed galaxy that was billions of kilometers away. He said softly, from the beginning to the end, we were just moving in the small world. Back then, during the calamity, this race rose and that race perished. How could there be an eternal protagonist who would prosper forever? The Western sect won the God-conferment tribulation? However, after so many years, where is the prosperity? Your second Uncle Master's Chan school won, but where did they win? Your third Uncle Master's Jie school lost. Did they really lose? That day, the demon race's Wu people had a shocking battle. The world collapsed and the mysterious yellow world was overturned. But what about now? How many people in this world can prosper forever? It seems to be a long time, but who isn't a passerby in this world? What's the difference between fighting and not fighting in the end? Might as well not fight. Staying out of the world and watching coldly from the sidelines, watching the life and death of the world, is also a way to live, an attitude. I'm leaving. Master, Disciple has one last question. When Samantabhadra and the other junior brothers went to the west, was it second uncle's plan? Or was it really a betrayal? All these years, although this disciple understands, I have always been brooding over it. That is why you cannot enter this tribulation. Disciple does not understand. Haha. You can think about it carefully. After the investiture of the gods, the West flourished. But speaking of which Buddhas were favored by the people, which Buddhas were they? Which bodhisattvas are they? The Western sect has manifested their divinity countless times, but since ancient times. Shuanti and Jain. What about the incense they received? In fact, how many living beings in this world worship them and remember them? This disciple is covered in cold sweat. There are countless schemes and schemes, countless treacherous people, countless far-reaching arrangements. It has evolved into countless guesses. Who is right and who is wrong has long been meaningless. However, the heavenly Tao is clear, and the saints exist forever. The saints' schemes are in the boundless world. As the saying goes, the world is the board and all living beings are the children. However, they still need a medium. Otherwise, not only would there be chess players but there would also be a place to fight. As for why there are only those few, I can only say that it is fate in the heart. Although there were endless changes and deductions later on, if you ask your second uncle this question. What? I'm afraid that your second martial uncle's heart is also confused. The old Taoist priest laughed. However, it's all in this game. Ashes to ashes, dust to dust. The two of them entered the vast chaos. Suddenly, a gourd floated out quietly from behind the two of them. It immediately turned into a stream of light and returned to the nebula galaxy in a flash. Master, what does this mean? What should come will come and what should leave will leave. There are still 10 batches of 9 revolutions golden pills that have recently been refined. I might as well leave them for this world. After all, I'll leave a mark in this world. I don't understand. The great Tao is boundless. You are still young. You have to know that if you want to be free, you have to abandon all karma. The other young Taoist was dumbfounded. I, the great Taoist master Shendu, the head disciple of the 3 sects, am still young? Even I was embarrassed by her words. However, when he saw that his master had already walked far away, he hurriedly chased after him. Master, the yin-yang fish array. Let him be. Ahem. Master, if the yin-yang cycle is given out, the Tao ancestor will probably. That's why we have to leave. Master, what will happen to Ren school if we leave? The yin-yang kane chi. Someone will inherit Ren school and represent me. Master, you have another legacy? I have a junior brother? That can't be right? Why don't I know? The young Taoist priest looked surprised and a little disappointed. You hid such a big matter from me. Master, you don't love me anymore. You actually have a younger one in secret. There are legacies in yin and yang. You can look for them yourself. But there's no one leading. Can we? There's your third uncle master. Ahem. You're scheming against third uncle master again. Your third uncle master. Be honest. Third uncle master will probably be fuming with anger when he hears your words. Even if he doesn't hear it, he will still be fuming. Master, are we still coming back? Silly child. The 2 silhouettes finally disappeared, leaving no trace behind. Zhuoxiaoduo and Zhuoxiaonian floated on the sea for a day and vaguely felt that something was amiss. What? Is it so big? I can't turn out? He could not hold it in any longer and tore through space to rush forward. However, he realized that after tearing through space hundreds of times, he was still above the sea. The two of them panicked. He calmed down and observed with his mind's eye. After a long time, he felt as if there was a thin mist around him. However, when he tried his best to look into the distance, he could see the sun and moon. The sea level was 5,000 kilometers away. It doesn't seem like an array formation. But why can't I turn out? After a long time, Zhuoxiaonian vaguely realized something. Xiaoduo, have you noticed? This invisible airflow seems strange. Zhuoxiaoduo frowned. No. He calmed down and tried to sense it carefully. In the end, he still looked confused. There's really nothing. Zhuoxiaonian could see more clearly as a bystander. She said softly, it's a little like your creation plate jade pendant. That kind of. Or, can you check it again? Zhuoxiaoduo checked carefully and suddenly realized something. This kind of primordial qi lingered around his body. Every time he used his energy to check, this kind of aura would merge with his primordial qi and he would not be able to discover it. That was why he did not discover it after so long. Zhuoxiaonian's aura was relatively pure, so it was easier to discover this kind of hidden aura. However, it was too hidden and too invisible. That was why he only discovered it after so long. This is indeed similar to the aura of the creation plate, but it's much more illusory. It seems to be completely unreal. It's completely like a simulation. Then do you have the feeling that it's similar to two yin-yang fishes swimming together? Yes, I do. Then it's obvious that we've fallen into this array formation. Who set up this array formation? Who's plotting against us? Both of them guessed but still could not figure it out. The fact that they had silently fallen into someone else's trap was still a little baffling to the two of them. What was going on? When did they fall into the trap? Why didn't they feel anything at all? Let's think of a way to break the array first. Zhou Xiaoyan was a little depressed. There's no hurry. Zhou Xiaoduo was a little lost in thought. He slowly recalled and was a little excited. I seem to feel that the power of the creation plate seems to be stronger than before. He channeled his energy again and felt for more than an hour. Finally he said, this seems to be a wandering aura. It's just formed a maze-like array. As long as I have the aura of the creation plate on me, I'll be entangled. However, as long as I cultivate in here, I can absorb this aura and strengthen the creation plate. Zhou Xiaoduo was a little excited. What's going on? Who arranged this? It's good that you're fine. Then you can cultivate here. Zhou Xiaoyan said, I'll cultivate in the Annihilation Tower. Okay. Zhou Xiaoduo looked at the aura of the countless yin-yang fish around him. His eyes lit up. Must be a friend. If it's an enemy who would let me off so easily. I'm really rich this time. The person who set up the array formation did not show up. Zhou Xiaoduo stopped guessing and cultivated with all his might. The aura of the yin-yang fish was good stuff. He could not let it run away. As for the purpose, I don't care what the purpose is. If there are benefits, I'll absorb them first. I'll understand in the future. Zhou Xiaoduo's philosophy was, don't think about things that you don't understand. But if you can get something good, take it first. Time passed little by little. Li Chenglong was in a difficult battle. He took Xiang Chong and Xiang Bing to train in the demon realm. He never thought that he would meet his senior, the demon commander of Yingzhou. This demon commander of Yingzhou had sensed the presence of his cave abode. He led his demon soldiers and chased after them. He had no intention of giving preferential treatment to his successor. Li Chenglong and the others were now extremely powerful. However, there were so many demons that they could not defeat them. They could only fight and run at the same time. However, their biggest weakness was that Li Chenglong had Yingzhou's cave abode. This was equivalent to carrying a huge guiding light. It constantly reminded the demon commander of Yingzhou where he was. However, Li Chenglong would not throw away this thing even if he was killed. This was a peerless treasure. How could he throw it away? Therefore they were trapped in this vicious cycle. However, there were also benefits. The combat strength and cultivation of the three of them increased steadily. They were beaten up every day and it was a life-and-death battle. As long as they did not die, how could their experience not increase? Long Yuxing's group encountered another problem. The 7 stars of Azure Dragon came looking for them. They were aggressive. Where is my big brother? Why is my big brother's Azure Dragon's sacred sword in your hands? Hand over my big brother's sword. Where is my big brother? In the beginning, everyone was amiable and had a relatively peaceful exchange. However, Long Yuxing refused to hand over the Azure Dragon's sacred sword. In fact, he could not hand it over. How could he hand it over when it had already recognized him as its master? Chapter 1368. The Azure Dragon's sacred hall had already sunk. Where could they find it? Long Yuxing was also dumbfounded. What should I do? I can't possibly kill the Azure Dragon 7 stars, right? But, are we going to continue being entangled like this? The Azure Dragon 7 stars were also at their wits' end. Each of them felt that their heads were 3 times bigger. The Azure Dragon's sacred sword is in the hands of this brat. He is also unwilling to join the demon race. Are we going to betray the demon race and follow him? This is impossible. As for killing him, that is even more impossible. The Azure Dragon's sacred sword is in his hands. He is the successor of Big Brother. How can we kill him? We can't kill him. We can't follow him. We can't bear to part with him. After all, seeing the Azure Dragon's sacred sword is like seeing Big Brother. How can we give it up so easily? The Azure Dragon 7 stars were so conflicted that their intestines were twisted. Especially the Moon Fox of Heart. Sometimes she would cry until her eyes were like peaches. When she saw the Azure Dragon's sacred sword, she would think of Big Brother. Thus, these two groups of people chased each other and fought intensely. However, there was no danger to their lives. Could be said that they were the strangest group. It was as if they were training together. In short, they continued to be entangled like this. As for Li Zhangming and Zhen Piapiao's group, it was a true life-and-death battle. During their training, their tracks were exposed. They were surrounded by the demon race's army in a mountain range. Fortunately, the terrain was complicated. Pai Yibao used the no-sense-of-presence tactic to continuously gain merit. At the most critical moment, Li Zhangming fell asleep with a large number of demons. Then the other three carried him and ran for their lives. However, after fighting for so long, the four of them were quickly covered in wounds. However, his cultivation base was also increasing at a rapid pace that it was only until the demon race, and spirit race broke out that the four of them rushed out of the myriad demon mountain range. Then, they entered the battlefield of the various races. They were constantly fighting for survival in the cracks. In short, everyone was besieged, surrounded, and crazily fighting. Time slowly passed. This world became more and more complicated. Everything that happened every day gave people a subtle feeling of being at a loss. After the demon race had fought the witch race and then the monster race, for some unknown reason, Dark Phoenix had managed to kill the 4 crown princes of the spirit race's spirit emperor on the spot. The spirit race only had 4 crown princes, and they had all been killed by Dark Phoenix for some reason. The Nirvana underworld flame was directly burned to ashes. Everyone in the spirit clan, from spirit emperor to spirit emperor, believed in being kind to others and standing aloof from worldly affairs. When they returned to their ancestral land this time, they only wanted to safely survive this tribulation of heaven and earth. They never had the intention to compete with other clans. But now that 4 of their sons had been killed, they were filled with anger. In fact, it wasn't just the spirit emperor. The 4 crown princes' concubines, descendants, ministers, and generals were all filled with righteous indignation. If he didn't take revenge for this, how could he maintain his standing in this world? As a result, the spirit race sent out their troops. The demon race was immediately surrounded by 3 forces, and their situation was precarious. But at this time, the Western Buddhist soldiers suddenly intervened. Dark Phoenix immediately laid down her butcher's knife and became a Buddha. The spirit race clansmen were all stunned. Why? Did you go to the Western sect? He actually became a Buddha? What the hell? How were they going to play this? At this time, the Azura tribe and the ancient god Qilin tribe inexplicably started fighting. Although the Qilin tribe was few in number, every one of them was at least a Xiantian expert. They were not at a disadvantage in the battle against the Azura tribe, and even had the upper hand. The ancient dragon tribe, who had been watching from the sidelines, took advantage of the time when old ancestor Nether River was fighting to launch a sneak attack on the Azura tribe's lair. Their million-feet-long dragon body took a bath in the Azura tribe's blood river. Then, the primordial phoenix disliked the Azura tribe's dirty eyes and directly sent down the heavenly fire net, burning down the Azura tribe's lair. Everyone in the Azura tribe, including old ancestor Nether River, was confused. When did I offend the 3 of you? Is there a need for the 3 of you to join forces against me? If you dare to do this to me, then don't blame me for taking action. Thus he turned his head and asked for help from the Western sect. The Buddhas of the Western sect all took action and forced the 3 ancient races to retreat. At the right time, the Kuan-Ping demon master of the demon race led tens of millions of demon soldiers to help the battle. The target of the battle was the spirit race. He kept saying that he would help the spirit race to settle the blood debt and start a war with the Western sect and the demon race. At the critical moment of this battle, the goddess of Wudong, the goddess of turtle spirit, and fairy Yun Shao of Jie School entered the battle forcefully. They chased after the Western sect with their swords and asked for the 5 immortals who had accompanied the Grandmaster of Heaven. However, how could the Western sect take them out? Now, the ones who were free were the Umno Alliance and the Astral Souls. The Tao League was first abandoned and fell into the hands of the demon race. Then, the mighty figures of the Tao League returned and expelled the demon race. It was really full of twists and turns. However, before the people who moved out of the Tao League could return, the entire Tao League continent turned into a chaotic battlefield for the various races. Moreover, it was one of the more intense battlefields. The demon race came to fight, the Jie School came to fight, the demon race came to fight, and the Western sect also came to fight. Now, it was the Azura race and the spirit race's turn to be free. On the other hand, the Wizard Alliance continent and the Star Soul continent, which were originally filled with worries, had been peaceful during this period of time. The weather was good and people lived and worked in peace and contentment. Nothing happened. Other than the absence of the daily high-tech facilities to pass the time, everything else was not much different from before the ancestral land was revived. Before the various races returned, would anyone believe it? Who would dare to believe it? The flood which put down her chess piece gloomily. You don't understand? I can't understand it long ago. Otherwise why would I ask you? The flood which brought all the elites of the Umno Alliance back to the Umno Alliance continent as if her boat was on fire last time. She actively prepared for war. However, there was only one battle with the demon race's outpost. Then, the demon race ignored her. The flood which built the Brave Soul Pass and prepared for war. She even mobilized the forces of the Umno Alliance continent and urged the 12 great shamans to improve their cultivation. She held the whip with both hands and supervised them forcefully. The Fire Great Shaman and his wife were almost beaten into mud by her. The Ice Great Shaman was even more important. The flood which almost changed her bad mouth. Now, as long as the Ice Great Shaman saw the flood which, she would automatically stuff ice cubes into her mouth and then tie her up with a rope to ensure that nothing would go wrong. She was afraid that if she said something wrong she would be punched for several days in a row. The flood which made all the preparations for war and gathered all the resources she could gather at the border. She was ready to welcome the war at any time and was even prepared to die in battle. However, there was only silence at the border. Nothing happened. They were just outside the border fighting each other. They just didn't cross the line and didn't want to have anything to do with the Umno Alliance. As a result, tens of millions of troops of the Umno Alliance looked up and watched the show all day. Occasionally they would fight above their heads. But they just didn't want to come in. What could you do? Tens of millions of people were waiting for battle. How would you feel? But no matter what kind of drill or training you did, no one paid any attention to you when the 6 races were fighting fiercely outside. At first, the flood which felt that there might be something wrong and was careful to guard against any changes. Day after day passed. In the end, she was depressed by this situation. Chapter 1369. The flood which didn't understand. That was why he had come to look for Zhuanglu. What the hell is going on? Do you know what this means? It means that we've been ignored by the higher-ups of the various races. They don't treat us as opponents. This hurts my pride. The flood which was furious. What's wrong with looking down on me? How can they ignore me like this? I'm the #1 master in the world. Zhuanglu, on the other hand, was calm and unruffled in the midst of chaos. He picked up a white piece and made a break. It's better to hurt one's pride than to hurt one's life. I don't believe you're not upset. Not only do they not treat us as opponents, they don't even care about us. The flood which had never been ignored like this in her life. She felt like her lungs were about to explode. She couldn't understand. All the masters of the various races have come back. Where are the masters of the Wu people? You humans should have top masters too. Where are the 3 sovereigns and 5 emperors? Zhuanglu's face twisted. I really don't know. All in all, everything that's happened now is confusing and inexplicable. That's true. In the long run it's not a problem. Zhuanglu put down a piece and said, but I have to say that now is the last period of self-improvement for the astral souls and the Umno Alliance. It's reasonable that the other races don't see us. We're far behind the other races in terms of high-end combat power and general standards. This is an indisputable fact. There are so many masters on the battlefield. Any one of them is no weaker than you or me. And there are many more who are much stronger than you and me. Based on this premise, why do they care about us? Haha, it's just that we don't have Tao immortals. They come from the ancient times and have their own roots. They've been perfected golden immortals for a long time. We're just scattered perfected golden immortals. We're not real perfected golden immortals. That's all. The flood which was somewhat disdainful. Isn't Tao immortal a term used by the Western sect? Zhuanglu was not as knowledgeable as the flood which in this regard. After all, it had been thousands of years since the end of the world. Anything that could be passed down by the ancient humans had long been destroyed. More than that. The flood which said, since ancient times the heavenly Tao would bestow rewards to all cultivators who succeeded in their cultivation and passed the heavenly tribulation. Their bodies and souls would be tempered, and only then would they be considered to have attained the Tao immortal realm. The so-called celestial immortals, golden immortals, mystic immortals, etc. all belong to the Tao immortal realm. In other words, it is a recognition of one's cultivation status. With a single thought, the heavens and earth would immediately react. White clouds would naturally rise beneath one's feet. The so-called riding the clouds and riding the mist is a technique of the immortals. Since the splitting of the continent, the heavenly Tao has been incomplete. Therefore, it has lost part of the rules for the evaluation of higher-level cultivators. Even if we have succeeded in our cultivation and can travel thousands of miles in an instant, There are no auspicious clouds surging beneath our feet. This is the essential difference between us and them. The flood which sighed. In terms of combat strength, we may not lose to cultivators of the same level. However, in terms of spiritual source, immortal power, and the power to mobilize the universe, we are greatly inferior. There is a clear distinction between the superior and the inferior. For example, you can easily destroy a mountain now, but can you easily create a mountain out of nothing? This is the fundamental difference. Zhuochanglu frowned and said, then this kind of gap should be able to be bridged in some way, right? Especially now that the ancestral land has regained its light. The flood which pondered this question for a long time, but did not speak for a long time. For a long time, the two did not speak until the end of a game of chess. Zhuochanglu slaughtered the flood witch's dragon. On the chessboard, there were only a few sporadic black pieces with one last breath left. All that could be seen was white. A complete victory. Moreover, it was an extremely humiliating victory. Zhuochanglu sighed comfortably. Playing chess with you is so satisfying. The flood which rolled her eyes gloomily. I don't know how to play this game. It's hard for you to be so serious and put in so much effort. Is it worth it? Wu Yuting sighed and sat aside. Watching the two of you play chess, I really feel sorry for Big Guy. You know that you are not good at chess, but you still insist on not admitting defeat every time. Usually, the outcome of the game can be seen before the middle of the game, but you still insist on holding on until the entire chessboard is full of chess pieces. Big Guy, you know that old Zhuo is going through painstaking efforts just to kill you. The outcome of the game is already clear. Why are you still working so hard alone? Let's not talk about other things. Big Guy, your perseverance is really admirable. As long as there are pieces on the chessboard, no matter how slim the hope is, you will not admit defeat. Both of you are fucking geniuses. Both of you can make me swear. The flood which was still studying the chessboard full of white pieces and only a few sporadic black pieces. She held a black piece in her hand and said, as a warrior, as long as there is a breath left, we should fight endlessly. How can we stop fighting? As she spoke, she put down another piece. She wanted to play in the middle of the chessboard where there was almost no space. Zhuochanglu sighed and took away the chessboard. Flood Master, you put down a piece in the chessboard where I have already made a real space. Or rather, it was meaningless to be vigilant earlier. After the thick white mist poured in, when the white mist dissipated, Zhuochanglu and the flood which had already disappeared from the scene. Who is it? Wu Yuting unleashed her full aura and shattered the void around her. Then she shouted, who is it? The void was silent, and there was no movement at all. Zhuochanglu and flood which only felt dizzy in front of their eyes. When they came back to their senses, they found that they were already in a strange space. The two of them sat still and looked at each other. They understood each other's meaning. This space was set up by a master, and the two of them couldn't break it with their strength. Greetings, lay Buddhists. In the void, the mist dispersed and a white-robed Taoist slowly walked over. This person had a kind and handsome face and he was tall and straight. Following his arrival, it was as if the entire space was filled with benevolence and compassion. Greetings, Senior. The two of them stood up and returned the greeting. May I know your name, Senior? Where are you from? Why did you bring us here? I came from the west. When I saw the red light shrouding the sky, I stopped here for a moment to form a good relationship with the two lay Buddhists. Good relationship? Zhuochanglu frowned and said, Senior, please tell us your reason and give us your name. It's fate that brought us together. The so-called name is just a code. Why are you so obsessed with the false reputation? The white-robed Taoist smiled and said, I heard you talking about the difference between the Golden Immortal Realm and the Zenith Heaven Golden Immortal Realm. I felt something in my heart and wanted to share it with you. Chapter 1370. Sense? Tell me more? With your cultivations, you can still be ranked among the top in the current ancestral land. However, without reaching the Tao realm, you can't enter the chessboard. It's difficult for you to be the chess player and it's difficult for you to control yourself. The white-robed Taoist waved his hand, and a faint golden light quietly passed by. Zhuochanglu and the flood which only felt that there was something extra in their minds. They actually had a subtle feeling of enlightenment. For a moment, the aura in their bodies fluctuated, and their current cultivation shackles were instantly broken. Immediately, the aura that had been accumulating for a long time soared into the sky, and dense smoke rose above their heads. In just a moment, the three flowers had already condensed and the 5 qi converged. The sound of the great Tao quietly sounded in their hearts. Monk Bai's voice leisurely sounded. The world is suffering. I'm not talented, but I'm willing to use this body's power of will to open a line of the heavenly Tao. Only by attaining the Tao of Chaos Zenith Heaven will I have the chance to protect the world and save the people. Take care, the two of you. I'll take my leave." The flood which stirred up her last bit of clarity and shouted, "Who are you?" The white-robed Taoist smiled faintly, retreated, and slowly disappeared in the white fog. An ethereal voice sounded, "The ancient Zhu Wu didn't die. However, after losing the war of the shamans and demons, he was sealed in the Demon Emperor Palace under the Fusang tree. Now that the ancestral land has regained its light, and Pangu has opened the sky, it will definitely allow Zhu Wu to step into the mortal world and rise again." In an instant, the white fog dissipated, and the white-robed figure disappeared without a trace. Zhuchanglu and the Flood Witch's aura was still surging, and they struggled to open their eyes, only to find that they had returned to their original positions. However, golden lightning flashed in the sky, and purple light shone. The great Tao Purple Heaven's divine thunder was about to fall. The breakthrough that the two of them had just achieved was real, and it wasn't an illusion. The two of them didn't even have time to explain before they flew up and left quickly, each looking for a place to transcend the tribulation to improve themselves and attain the Zenith Heaven realm. The white-robed Taoist only said a sentence and waved his hand, and the two of them broke through their original bottlenecks and attained the Tao. What kind of cultivation is this? What kind of power was this? Zhuchanglu and the Flood Witch's hearts were only filled with shock and surprise. After all, it was an indisputable fact that both of them had broken through to the Tao validation realm. However, there was still one final hurdle that he had to overcome, and that was the heavenly tribulation had already arrived above his head. As the golden light rolled, strings of purple heaven godly thunder fell out above the clouds. A white-robed monk slowly passed by and sprinkled golden rain onto the world above the continent of the Umno Alliance and the continent of astral souls. Golden rain bathes the world, sweet dew on the world. After experiencing the baptism of the golden rain, the countless ordinary people on the two continents all felt much more relaxed. Years of fatigue, illnesses, and hidden injuries all disappeared without a trace in this period of time. There were even many terminally ill patients who were on the verge of death who were getting better and recovering. Many people with physical disabilities actually had their broken limbs regrow, looking no different from their original ones. And the ones who benefited the most were the martial artists. It was as if all of them had received a revelation or were blessed with good fortune. Some martial artists who were at a loss had a clear direction of their great Tao. Countless martial artists who were stuck at bottlenecks were all inexplicably breaking through. The process was natural and smooth. All of this happened so abruptly, but it also seemed to be a matter of course. It seemed to be the benefits after the boundary between heaven and earth was broken. The human world once again had the opportunity to come into contact with the heavenly Tao, and once again had the qualifications to spy on the supreme deity position. Countless people whose origins were damaged and couldn't take another step forward found that they had the possibility to continue. Countless people who had reached the end of their lives suddenly felt that they could live for a few more years. The cultivators who had broken through during this incident found that their breakthroughs now seemed to be different from before. It seemed that their power was greater, and their foundations were more profound. Moreover, they could mobilize the power of heaven and earth. Everything was showing a huge change. In the frontline army, strange phenomena kept flashing. Batches of soldiers and martial artists soared into the sky and broke through the heavenly tribulation. The entire world seemed to have fallen into an endless, dazzling display of fireworks. It was magnificent and boundless. The rumbling sounds were not inferior to that of the day when the three continents returned. The strength of the two continents showed a trend of collective enhancement, and it was a collective enhancement that was somersaulting. The rumbling of the heavenly thunder of purple heaven continued for an unknown period of time until late at night. On this day, the 9 clans unanimously chose to stop fighting. The main thing was that there was really no way to fight. There was tribulation lightning everywhere. How could they fight? Start a war? Weren't they afraid of being implicated by the tribulation lightning? That day the entire world was celebrating. Everyone was talking and laughing happily, feeling happy and happy. They were all praising that the Buddha had appeared. This day was called the Day of Opening by countless later generations. On Mount Kunlun, in the Jade Void Palace, a Taoist floated out and stared at the sky. A solemn expression flashed across his face. Consuming the Tao fruit to reopen heaven and earth and establish a connection with the great Tao. Is Kundi planning to reopen earth, fire, water, and wind? But it doesn't seem like it. But this way the great Tao of life is a little off. What should I do? It's still the same unscrupulous method from back then. It's really annoying. The Taoist frowned, somewhat displeased. A 9 dragons agarwood carriage floated out. 2 white cranes shook their bodies and transformed into 2 boys, standing in front of the Taoist. The Taoist floated into the agarwood carriage. The 9 divine dragons raised their heads at the same time and sped away. On the other side, a majestic sword beam rose from Green Turing Palace. The Grandmaster of Heaven carried a long sword on his back and left the island alone. Even further away, a white-robed Taoist sighed softly. Junior brother, you still haven't given up." With a long sigh, a colorful cloud rose under the white-robed Taoist's feet as he left leisurely. Fiend ancestor Rahu only felt a black light flickering above his head. The demonic clouds became dense as the god-slaying spear pierced through the void. "Alright, since I'm already out, wouldn't it be a pity if I don't take a look?" At the same time, Dong Huang, Tai, Demon Emperor Jun, and Demon Empress Shihi also sensed it. They sighed. The means of a saint. They all rode on clouds and rose. The Nether River Patriarch soared into the sky from the Blood River, mixed with a red light, and entered the void. Above the 9 heavens. The people who were chatting and laughing were suddenly stunned. What's going on?" The leader, a graceful woman, smiled softly. "The myriad of worlds are based on humans. Why do we need to be schemed by others?" Everyone laughed, and the stunned atmosphere from before was instantly swept away. However, the location of the small sword. The woman stretched out her hand, and a 5-colored stone turned into a beam of light and pierced through the sky. On the ground in the spirit forest, the spirit emperor rose and also headed in a direction. On the ground, Chan Sheng gritted his teeth and looked at the 7-colored light in the sky. He looked at the dense purple heaven divine thunder in the sky and hesitated for a moment. Finally, he chose to soar into the sky and head to a certain place. Could it be that I'll be left behind again this time? The continent of astral souls. Above Shangjing City. At an unknown height in the void, the white-robed Taoist smiled faintly and bowed. "Today my thoughts are clear." His face was pale and he sat on the cloud to regulate his breath. Then he sat like that and a white cloud took him away slowly. He was heading in the same direction as everyone else. Underground. A ball of white light flashed directly from the ground. In an instant the entire nameless valley bloomed at the same time, turning into a paradise. A woman's figure rose from the white light and soared into the sky. "All my brothers are not here. This is unfair. For the last time, use the identity of a shaman." The woman's face was full of determination. Her eyes were clear as she soared into the sky. Above the sea, Zhuoxiaoduo and Zhuoxiaonian had been circling around here for many days. For some reason they just couldn't get out. Zhuoxiaoduo had absorbed most of the Taoist connotation of yin and yang that he had obtained before. He believed that he could finish absorbing it in 2 or 3 days. Because of the Taoist connotation of yin and yang, Zhuoxiaoduo didn't pay much attention to the suspected predicament in front of them. It would be better if they could get out of here. If they couldn't, they would wait until they had finished absorbing all the Taoist connotation. Zhuoxiaoduo had a thought. Was it because the Taoist connotation of yin and yang was so powerful that heaven and earth created a predicament to trap them? As long as they didn't absorb all the Taoist connotation, they wouldn't be able to get out. Don't tell me I guessed it right? Is it really because of the Taoist connotation of yin and yang? That's weird. Zhuoxiaoduo was a little speechless. How long have we been trapped in this broken place? I don't know. There is no sense of time around here. We've been living in a daze. That's right. The 2 of them were completely at a loss of what to do. At this moment a magnificent sword light came from the sky. It was the sect leader of Tongtian. Coincidentally, he saw the 2 of them wandering around like headless flies. He couldn't help but laugh. "Why are you 2 here? Are you lost?" Zhuoxiaoduo was overjoyed when he heard the sect leader of Tongtian's voice. He knew that he had met his savior. "I don't know how we got trapped here." "Ha ha ha." The sect leader of Tongtian laughed. He didn't move, but the sword light suddenly flashed and cut the Taoist connotation. He casually rolled it up and a picture appeared in the air and floated down. The sect leader of Tongtian glanced at it and sighed softly. He threw it to Zhuoxiaoduo. When Zhuoxiaoduo was about to catch it, the picture automatically merged into his body. Zhuoxiaoduo was stunned. "What is this?" In the space of consciousness, a voice suddenly sounded. "You are the one who is a thing. Your whole family is a thing." Zhuoxiaoduo's eyes widened. Fuck. Before he could explain, he heard the sect leader of Tongtian sigh. "I didn't expect eldest senior brother to leave such a backup plan. However, he still left in a hurry. If he can't wait to get rid of everything on him and leave so easily." The sect leader of Tong Tian was obviously dissatisfied. The unwillingness in his words was obvious. You're leaving just like that? Aren't you going to settle the score from back then? That old thing beat me up so happily back then. Now you're leaving just like that? Could it be that you beat me up back then? For nothing? Indeed, you took advantage of me. Even if you're the eldest brother, you didn't do a good job back then. You were biased and even ganged up with outsiders to beat me up. Now you're leaving without saying a word? The sect leader of Tong Tian snorted angrily. He felt very uncomfortable. He only felt a faint pain on his spine. It seemed that someone was beating him with a cane. I'm a saint too. Do you think I'll be beaten up like that? Don't I care about my reputation? Just because I'm the youngest, you can act like the eldest brother? Chapter 1371. The more Tong Tian thought about it, the more unhappy he became. He thought of the immortal slaying array and the old man hitting his back with his crutch, leaving marks on his back. His heart became more and more sour. If his eldest brother was still here, it would be fine. After all, he would have to talk about it one day. But now he really felt that his eldest brother was gone. He had left the starry sky and would never come back. What should I do if I get beaten up? The more he thought about it, the angrier he became. Taking a step back was simply too humiliating. Tong Tian, who could not think clearly, roared at the sky. Shame on you. You just left like that? Am I that easy to bully? Tong Tian's aura shook the void, and layers of cracks appeared in the endless void. His roar shook the void and his power was so powerful. On the clouds in the sky, a yellow talisman was faintly discernible. It seemed that it would disappear at any time. Well, it should be said that if Tong Tian's sect leader did not ask this question, the talisman would have disappeared along with Zhuoxiaoduo's absorption of the yin-yang fish's aura. However, as soon as Tong Tian asked the question, the talisman drifted down from the sky. Only then did the prime of Tong Tian's face look a little better as he muttered to himself. Zhuoxiaoduo did not hear anything, but he could guess that Tong Tian would say something like, "At least you still have some conscience and know to leave an explanation. Otherwise, humph." But the next moment, Tong Tian's face became uglier and uglier. He threw the talisman at his feet angrily and stomped it twice. He scolded angrily, "This is really eye-opening. Eldest brother, you always treat me like this." Zhuoxiaoduo and Zhuoxiaoyan were standing on one side. In order to show that his eldest brother was apologizing to him, Tong Tian did not hide anything. Even the words written on the talisman paper were clearly seen by Zhuoxiaoduo and Zhuoxiaoduan. However, it was precisely because they could see it clearly that the two of them almost couldn't help but laugh out loud. There was only one sentence written on the talisman: "Go and find second brother about what happened." There were only 8 words. They were clear, clear and clear. And the meaning of the words was also clear and clear. If he did not feel the lingering Taoist rhyme on the talisman, Zhuoxiaoduo would most likely think that it was written by Yudong Tian. This blame was thrown away cleanly, decisively and freely. Tong Tian, a man who had survived countless periods of time, had his face turned livid with rage. If it were someone else, he would not be angry. Instead, he would smile. After all, other people were not worthy of his attention. However, eldest senior brother's words had completely shattered all of his self-restraint and poise, leaving not a single bit behind. This old thing he did not forget. He had intended to go back on his words. But he could not do anything. Your grandpa is indeed your grandpa. Big brother is also the same. Otherwise he would be the big brother. I don't believe you. I will. How long can you deny it? The Grandmaster of Heaven grabbed the talisman under his feet again, smoothed it with his hand and put it in his arms. His actions were actually a little like Zhuoxiaoduo's subordinates, Li Chenglong and the others, when they had to repay the debt in this lifetime. I didn't do this because I valued what you left behind. It's because you asked me to settle the score with second brother. This is proof. The Grandmaster of Heaven snorted and turned to Zhuoxiaoduo. "Xiaoduo, what did you see?" Zhuoxiaoduo and Zhuoxiaoyan stood side by side and shook their heads vigorously. They were like 2 rattles. "We didn't see anything." This time, the two of them did not discuss anything beforehand. They just acted subconsciously based on their instincts. They had an abnormal tacit understanding and were in sync. Since eldest senior brother has chosen to give you the yin-yang fish taiji diagram and left the two of you here at the sages' meeting, it means that he wants you to represent him. No wonder he left in such a hurry. Don't tell me you're naive enough to think that you can be considered your person just because you gave him something? The Grandmaster of Heaven was still indignant. "Let's go. I'll take you to the meeting." With a flash of sword light, he had already brought Zhuo and Zhuxiaoyan into the sky. When you get there, remember to speak less. Try not to speak. The Grand Master of Heaven reminded him. Of course I'll try my best not to speak. Zhuo promised solemnly. The Grand Master of Heaven believed him. Reality proved that he had indeed known Zhuo for too short a time. This time, those who attended the meeting, such as Zhuo, were like poor people who had entered a treasure mountain. When they saw many rich people, how could they not open their mouths and ask for some benefits? Along the way, the Grand Master of Heaven seemed to have a lot on his mind. He had lost his usual calmness. That's right, the heavenly secrets were chaotic and unpredictable. The future was unpredictable. However, everything had just begun. Why did eldest senior brother take the initiative to leave? What? It was fine if he left, but why did he leave behind the yin-yang fish taiji painting and give it to Zhuo? Leaving behind the yin-yang fish and the taiji painting was equivalent to giving Zhuo the identity of an agent of Ren School. Through the conversation along the way, the Grand Master of Heaven easily found out that Zhuo had never interacted with his eldest senior brother. In other words, they were total strangers, and had never met each other before. The Grand Master of Heaven even judged that before he returned, his eldest senior brother did not know about the existence of such a little fellow. However, how long had it been? Did he pass down the yin-yang fish? For no reason? He also took action on the decision to leave the ancestral land. The Grand Master of Heaven did not believe that his eldest senior brother, who had always been mature and prudent, would make such an important decision rashly. No. It was the immeasurable calamity. It was the calamity of heaven and earth. It was also a chance encounter. Then what reason did eldest senior brother make such a decision? Could it be a bet? Even if it was a bet, it would not be right. In that case, could it be that Zhuan wanted to stay out of it because he had opened the sky? This time, Zhuan opened the sky and connected the heavens to the earth. It could be said to be a great creation. Naturally, a great merit would follow. However, this matter was fundamentally going against the trend. It was not in line with the original intention of the tribulation. It would definitely cause a backlash. However, this backlash had to be borne by the few people involved in the situation. Eldest senior brother had been eliminated in advance. In terms of the outcome, he had escaped the vortex. He did not want merit and instead transcended the shackles. Could that be the reason? Thinking about it, it makes sense. There are only two of them. Once they pack up and leave, how can there be any karma to find them? However, he left freely. We will inevitably be dragged in by Zhuan. Who knows what we will face? The Grand Master of Heaven felt depressed and became increasingly unhappy. What made him even more unhappy was that he had clearly placed a heavy bet on the backup plan that he had thought highly of. Now, his eldest senior brother had intercepted him halfway. The most terrible thing was that he had only placed a heavy bet. Eldest senior brother had directly placed a heavy bet. He had even thrown the yin-yang fish, which had been born from the creation plate and was related to the great Tao. Once he left, he even took the two people from Ren School away without a trace. However, he left that kid on the path that he had to pass by. It was obvious that he wanted him to bring him to the meeting. Doesn't that mean that the kid will represent Ren School? To the Grand Master of Heaven, that was like 100,000 horses galloping past. I thought highly of him. I placed the bet in advance. I helped him cultivate the yin-yang fish. I helped him accept the taiji painting. I brought him there. I did all the work. Everything was mine. In the end, it was baffling. Did he go on behalf of you? In the end, all the benefits would belong to Ren School and you. Eldest senior brother? What would I become then? Do you think I'm a tool? Eldest senior brother, you've really had enough of eating people. You're a lone wolf that fights 9 by 9 and doesn't fight +1. Eldest senior brother, you've eaten everything and still have to pack it up. All the benefits are now yours. Do you still want me to say that eldest senior brother is indeed worthy of being me? I'm amazing. But why should I listen to your arrangements? Should I be yours? You haven't paid me back what you owe me. Now, you're taking advantage of the situation and ordering me to do so many things. How can there be a big brother like you? I'm amazing. He cursed in his heart countless times, but he still had to do what he had to do. I can't really let him go, right? Otherwise I'll be him. That's a good name. However, the unhappiness in his heart had already reached the point where it could topple mountains and overturn seas. He's too much of a bully. He's too much of a bully. I've been bullied by him for my entire life. I've fallen into his schemes every step of the way. I'm also a saint, all right? The Grand Master of Heaven sighed and said gloomily, I'm on the same level as you. He added an extra exclamation mark. The main thing was that he called himself, which was double the reason. Zhuoxiaoduo and Zhuoxiaonian were like two little quails, following behind the Grand Master of Heaven silently. They did not dare to say a word. The two of them really did not understand what was wrong with this Grand Master of Heaven. Ever since he saw the two of them, he had been gloomy and had a lot on his mind. There was also a kind of gloomy feeling. The two of us did not offend him. We especially did not dare to offend him. Although I feel that I've improved a lot now, it seems like I can do it again. But it depends on who I'm compared to. Compared to the Grand Master of Heaven, it seems like I'm still a little bit not that good. You have to keep this Tai Chi diagram well. With your current cultivation you can't activate it. The Grand Master of Heaven was depressed for a long time. Finally he decided to work honestly. The first step was naturally to hand over the treasures. Eldest senior brother's method is too hasty. Too hasty. The Grand Master of Heaven sighed. Could it be because he's too hasty? That's why he passed down the Tai Chi diagram? This old thing is really not a good thing. I still have to clean up your mess when we arrive. Is it because I'm an honest person? Is an honest person guilty of something? Did an honest person eat your rice? This was even more unreasonable. To be honest, he did eat his rice. He brought Zhuoxiaoduo and Zhuoxiaonian with him. He was so angry that his stomach was about to burst. Chapter 1372. Outside the Nine Heavens. It was a strange place. It was a palace. It was as if it was made of immortal spiritual energy. It was illusory but real. The 9 Dragons Agarwood carriage was the first to arrive. Primeval Beginning floated out and stepped into the main hall. The main hall was empty. Countless auspicious clouds floated around. Seeing that there was no one else in the main hall, Primeval Beginning stood at the door with his hands behind his back. There was a hint of worry and heaviness in his eyes. The second one to arrive was a white-robed monk. He was handsome and tall. When he saw Yuanshi, who had arrived first, he cupped his hands and smiled helplessly. Teacher is not in the Purple Night Taoist Palace now, but everyone still has to come here. Isn't it too formal and too rigid? Primeval Beginning said indifferently, there has to be a place that everyone recognizes. If it's in my Jade Mirage Palace, will you go? The white-robed monk smiled. I have scruples, but it doesn't mean that I can't go. But it doesn't mean that I have to go. Yuanshi said faintly, Jane, you have been scheming until today. Now that your junior brother has done such a thing, how is your Western sect going to seize the fate and steal the sky and the sun? Jane said, mercy is the heart. Deliver all living beings from suffering. Eliminate all misfortune and suffering. Primeval Beginning looked up at the sky. The moonlight today is not bad. He had forcefully changed the topic of conversation. At the right time, a ball of red light shot up to the 9 heavens. However, when it was about to break through the sky, it was caught by a ball of gray fog and a black light. Finally, the 3 lights met. It seemed like a coincidence, but everyone knew what was going on. Chan Sheng, one of the 3 lights, was shocked. He looked at one of the other 2 lights. He clenched his teeth so hard that they almost broke. It's this person again. This time he met him again. After countless years they met again. He was his best friend. Although he did not meet the other one this time, the guy with the black aura was much more ferocious than the one from back then. Azura Styx. Demon Ancestor Rahu. Chan Sheng took a deep breath and forced himself to be expressionless. Fellow Taoist, where are you going? The Nether River Patriarch, who was dressed in red robes, looked at the Taoist before him suspiciously, vaguely feeling a sense of familiarity. However, he had clearly never seen it before. There was nothing familiar about the aura, but looking at it as a whole, it felt familiar. Wasn't this very strange? Chan Sheng looked at this old friend of his. His heart was in turmoil and he had mixed feelings. Back then, when he listened to the Tao in the Purple Cloud Palace, he originally had a great creation. However, because of a mistake he gave Zhuan Ti and offended the Kuanpeng. His body was shattered by the Kuanpeng. Originally, he wanted to seek refuge with his old friend Styx, but he didn't expect to be schemed against by Styx. That the various sufferings of the past, the ups and downs, now that he thought about it, he still couldn't close his eyes in peace. Now that tens of thousands of years had passed, he finally reincarnated and cultivated again with great difficulty and entered the path of Tao again. He did not dare to provoke any karma, so he worked hard and focused on cultivating Tao. He did not expect that when the opportunity to return to the Purple Cloud Palace came, he would run into this old friend he had not seen in a long time. At this moment, Chan Sheng's heart was burning with anxiety. Wherever you go, I will go, Chan Sheng said calmly. He actually wanted to welcome him with a smile and try his best not to cause any trouble to avoid disputes. However, as long as he thought of the past and how his suffering for so many years was almost all caused by the person in front of him, he could not suppress that anger no matter what. The moment he saw him, his internal organs seemed to be about to explode. The Patriarch of the Nether River sneered and said, "Fellow Taoist, it seems that you have a deep grudge with me, the Nether River. However, you are so unfamiliar. May I ask which fellow Taoist you are? Did you reincarnate after being expiated by me?" The Patriarch of the Nether River was also an old fox. After thinking for a while he guessed a little. Chan Xing narrowed his eyes and said, "You are arrogant. Do you think you can expiate me?" The Patriarch of the Nether River sneered and said, "Fellow Taoist, you are wrong. Throughout the ancient and modern times, there are very few people who the Nether River, wanted to expiate. Whether you expiated me in your previous life or not, you will definitely expiate me in this life." With the Patriarch of the Nether River's status and strength, his words were not considered a threat. Especially now that he had confirmed that Chan Xing was full of malice towards him. In this world of great battles, he naturally had to take advantage of the fact that he had a firm victory over the other party to get rid of him as soon as possible. How could he give the other party a chance to grow stronger? Chan Xing trembled with anger and said, "Nether River, how vicious you are." The Patriarch of the Nether River smiled faintly, but his eyes flashed with anger. He slowly stretched out his hand, and the infinite pain sword suddenly appeared. A gourd also appeared, and the mouth of the gourd was aimed at Chan Xing. He said calmly, "Fellow Taoist, I am very interested in your true identity. Are you still not willing to tell me?" Chan Xing laughed sternly and said, "Nether River, give up on your evil intentions." After saying that, he suddenly flipped his hands, and a huge seal appeared between his palms. It was ready to be released and its aura was not weak at all. The demon ancestor Rahu said impatiently, "How big is the grudge? Do you have to make a move at this time? After the Purple Cloud Palace is done, how much time is not enough for you to mess around? Do you have to waste time at this time?" The demon ancestor was furious. Moreover, it hurt his pride. Back then, he was the oldest person in terms of seniority and was at the same time as Hong Jun. He did not expect that he would need to come to the Purple Cloud Palace today. The demon ancestor did not want to come at all. However, he had no choice but to come. Listen to the Tao? Of course that was impossible. However, what happened this time was extraordinary. That was because the calamity this time was not arranged by the heavenly Tao, nor was it set up by the Patriarch of Hong Jun. It was an immeasurable calamity. There were too many things involved. There were the lives and deaths of various races, and there was the luck of the heavenly Tao. Rahu did not care about the lives and deaths of the demons. However, he cared about the luck of the heavenly Tao. Even if the demons could leave a demon behind, that was because the demons were still around. However, if all the demons died and he was the only one left, his foundation would be greatly damaged. Even if he could create demons with his immeasurable cultivation, it would take a long time and he would suffer a great loss. In that gap, he might not even have the ability to protect himself, because his roots had been shaved. What he wanted to discuss this time was the fate of the various races after Zhuan Ti did something that was similar to opening the sky again. If he did not go, it was very likely that he would be eliminated. Thinking of that, he had to go even more. Thinking of that, he felt even more aggrieved. Therefore, the demon ancestor's temper was extremely bad. These two fellows actually wanted to fight here? If they delayed, those fellows over there would not wait for anyone. Let's go, let's go. The Nether River Patriarch was clearly very afraid of the demon ancestor Rahu. He was one of the few existences who had the confidence to kill him directly. He hurriedly changed his words. Chan Xing heaved a sigh of relief. Although he was furious, he knew that the gap between him and Mingi was not small. He was definitely not the opponent's match. Perhaps he would lose his life as soon as they fought. Now that there was no need to fight, he was naturally relieved. The three of them. Demon ancestor Rahu was in front, Mingi was behind, and Chan Xing was at the end. They headed toward outer space. After walking less than half the distance, light filled the sky ahead. Dong Huang Tai, Demon Emperor Jun, and Demon Empress Shi stepped out of the void. 3 against 3. They were all stunned. Demon Emperor Jun stood with his hands behind his back and said lightly, "The demon ancestor and the nether ancestor have been in a good mood recently." Rahu said lightly, "Are you in a good mood?" Emperor Jun's eyes flashed coldly. "After this, the god-slaying spear will have to experience it." Rahu snorted coldly and narrowed his eyes. Dong Huang Tai looked at the Nether River Patriarch and said lightly, Nether River, if you want to do anything in the future, say it clearly. I'll play with you. The first-generation patriarch is sneaking around. It's really not presentable. The Nether River patriarch's face flushed red. He gritted his teeth and said, Tai, how dare you insult me? He and the demon ancestor were the first batch of chaos creatures. Although Emperor Jun and Dong Huang were also Kane chaos creatures, it was true that they were later than Rahu and Mingi. They were indeed half a generation older. Junior? Senior? Tai mocked. If I call you martial uncle, would you dare to accept this karma? The Nether River was speechless. How much karma did martial uncle Dong Huang have? Dong Huang dared to call him that, but the Nether River dared not accept it. Moreover, the Azura tribe had been beaten to a pulp. Even the Yuan killer sword that suppressed the Azura tribe's providence had not recovered. The Nether River patriarch's confidence was almost gone. He dared not accept it even more. She smiled gently at the side and said, Uncle Luo Ho, are we really going to fight to the point of extinction? Are you willing to attack me? Rahu smiled kindly and said, Don't worry, little Shihi. You're safe at all times. With me here, as long as you don't want to die, even if Hongjun wants you dead, he can't do it. When Mingi and Toad Saint saw his smile, they jumped in fright. What the fuck? Oh my god. The demon ancestor Rahu could smile. Thank you, Uncle Rahu. I knew you were the best to me. She smiled sweetly. The demon ancestor Rahu smiled faintly, looking high-spirited. Umph. The demon Emperor Jun snorted. What are you snorting for? The demon ancestor frowned and was about to pull out the god-slaying spear. He pointed at the demon ancestor and scolded, Look at you. You've never been a good person. Do you think I'm afraid of you? The demon emperor was furious and was about to attack. However, the demon empress stopped him. Both sides tried to persuade each other. So, umph. The demon empress she couldn't help but smile bitterly. She was different. Back then, when she had just transformed, she had formed a karma with Rahu. Rahu had inexplicably become kind and protected Shihi's transformation. Thus, a strange scene appeared. A beautiful little girl followed an impatient Xiantian great demon lord around every day, sweetly calling him uncle. That the great devil was extremely impatient. He wanted to chase the little girl away every day, but the little girl refused to leave. The great devil scratched his hair every day in frustration. However, if other gods and demons bullied the little girl, the great devil would go to their door and destroy them. These days lasted for a long time. It also led to the miracle of Shihi, a little girl, being able to barge into the chaos sea alone. Everyone knew that this little girl had an extremely awesome and unreasonable madman behind her. Who would dare to provoke her? Although they separated later, the demon ancestor still remembered that cute little crow. If there were any good memories in the life of the demon ancestor Rahu, the demon empress Shihi was undoubtedly one of them. And it was the most important one. It was a kind of pure care. It was as if he had a cute daughter. Later on, the demon ancestor became more and more disobedient. He chased Shihi out and disappeared completely. He was afraid that one day his demonic nature would erupt and he would not be able to control himself and kill her. Then Shihi crossed the chaos sea and returned to the Fusang divine tree while crying. Only then did she realize that two more three-legged golden crows had appeared after she left. That the big D Jun had already transformed, while the small Tai Yi was only half transformed. He had a crow head, a human body, 3 legs, 3 feet, 1 wing and the other hand. He took a step and fell. He was so stupid that it made one's hair stand on end. Hence, Shihi took good care of him and guided him carefully. That was how Tai Yi Dong Huang was born. Therefore Dong Huang Tai Yi never dared to disobey Shihi. Sometimes when Di Jun and Shihi quarreled or fought, Tai Yi would always stand on Shihi's side, regardless of right or wrong. The demon empress said, Beat him up. Tai Yi carried the chaos bell and attacked. That this was the friendship that he had developed in the past. I'm off topic. Speaking of fiend ancestor Rahu, it was precisely because of the demon empress Shihi that the old demon had never liked Di Jun in his life. He kept feeling that this damned crow had snatched his treasure. Every time he saw him, he felt that this kid was not a good person. When Di Jun established the demon court, fiend ancestor Rahu would cause trouble at any time. Moreover, Di Jun was slightly weaker at that time and had been beaten up many times. However, he had never lost his life. However, Di Jun was not convinced. He was filled with resentment towards fiend ancestor Rahu. Why are you, a demon, stirring up trouble in our demon race's matters? Do you know that you're meddling in other people's business? Therefore, every time he saw Rahu, he could not help but want to fight. Of course, now that he was stronger, the fiend ancestor did not want to fight with him. In short, The grudges at that time were right and wrong, that he was still alive and could still be counted. At their level, as long as one of them did not want to fight to the death, there would basically be no hatred of death. On the other hand, Fiend Ancestor Rahu did not want to fight anymore. One of the reasons was naturally Shihi. Another reason why Fiend Ancestor Rahu did not want to fight was that if Demon Emperor Dijun and Dong Huangtai joined forces, he seemed to be no match for them. Although he would not die, he would definitely be beaten up, or both sides would be injured. This would hurt his pride. If he was beaten up by the Dong Huang brothers in front of Shihi, to the Fiend Ancestor it would be better to fight with Hongjun himself. Although the latter choice might lead to death in battle, it was better than being beaten into a pig's head in front of Shihi. However, the demon race and the demon race were natural enemies. The rise of the demon race had squeezed out the living space of the demon race. And the Fiend Ancestor needed the heavenly Tao luck of the demon race. Therefore, some battles could not be avoided. This caused everyone to be unable to understand what was going on. It was so complicated that it could be written into 100,000 episodes of Family Ethics TV series. In fact, if there was a TV series like Husband Dijun and Uncle Rahu, it was estimated that the two of them would not reconcile until the end of time. Every opening line was classic. "You scoundrel, he was really blind to find someone like you. It's none of your business." Then they started fighting. Then it would repeat infinitely. "Uncle Rahu, are you going to the Purple Cloud Palace too?" Demon Empress Shihi greeted warmly. "Then shall the six of us go together?" Okay. It's 2 in 1. It's impossible for there to be more tonight. These guys are still at my place. I still have to barbecue tonight. I'm so angry. In the morning, everyone gathered money for a party, and tonight it was my treat. And they even broke my phone. Chapter 1373. Thus, the 6-man team of demons, asuras, and other strange creatures soared into the sky. Mingi and Chan Sheng were the most confused. What was going on? What kind of relationship was this? What? Did they not notice it before? Demons, and demons. Were they really going to join forces? This somewhere further away. The Emperor of the Spirit race was also flying over with a green light that pierced through the heavens and the earth. At the same time, a streak of white light from underground had also arrived at the 9 heavens. A graceful figure came forward resolutely. Zuwu Hut. A green sword light flashed. With a whoosh, it overtook Emperor Ling, who was in the shape of a green dragon. Emperor Ling was a little confused. He could not help but scratch his head. Just now, what had passed by? Whoosh, whoosh. He did not see it clearly. How could it be so fast? Everyone's destination was the Purple Cloud Tao Palace. The white-robed Taoist who was shining with golden light slowly arrived. When he saw Primeval Lord of Heaven and Jain standing at the door, he smiled and bowed. Senior brother, Primeval Lord of Heaven." Primeval Lord of Heaven looked at the void beside him and ignored him. Jain sighed. "Why is that? This is a rare opportunity. This matter is too big." Primeval Lord of Heaven had no intention of listening to the two brothers. He turned around and entered the Tao Palace. He found a cushion and sat down. He closed his eyes and waited quietly. Kundi and Jain looked at each other and smiled bitterly. In just a moment, lights flashed continuously. Demon Emperor Jun, Dong Huang, Tai, Demon Empress Shihi, Demon Ancestor Rahu, Azura Mingi, and Chan Sheng arrived at the same time. They greeted each other. Everyone was familiar with each other. They nodded and entered. Only Toad Saint was unknown to everyone, and his background was unknown. "May I ask who this Taoist is?" Kundi's eyes flashed with hesitation. "Do you still remember who the Purple Cloud Tao Palace gave up their seats to?" Chan Sheng's voice was filled with emotion. "So it's you again." Kundi's expression was unprecedentedly solemn. "Thank you, Taoist. Please go ahead." Beside him, Patriarch Mingi's expression changed. "Hong Yun. It's you? It's you?" Chan Sheng said faintly, "Thanks to you, my lifelong friend, I am who I am today. The current Hong Yun is just a toad." Mingi's eyes were filled with murderous intent. He said coldly, "Toad legs are also delicious." Zhuanti said indifferently, "Brother Mingi, you have killed too many people. The Ashura tribe should not exist in this world." The Nether River Patriarch took a deep breath and said sternly, "Kundi, don't think that just because you're a saint, you can do whatever you want." Kundi said, "Amateus." With a flash of sword light, Tong Tian arrived with Zhuxiao Duo and Zhuxiaonian. However, along with the sudden appearance of the sword light, the baleful aura was oppressive, causing everyone's faces to turn snow white. Mingy's pupils constricted, and he subconsciously took a step back. Demon ancestor Rahu's eyes narrowed, and his fighting spirit soared. Tong Tian let go and put down Zhuxiao Duo and Zhuxiaoyan. Then he turned to look at the two Western saints. We meet again. Greetings, senior brother. Which one is your senior brother? Tong Tian said bluntly, don't try to get close to me. Many of my disciples are still being your mounts? How dare you? Kundi said faintly, there are only a few people left in the Western sect. Among them, the Black Cloud Immortal is cultivating in the 8 treasures pool of merit, while the Pilu Immortal has achieved enlightenment and has returned to seclusion. As for mounts, there are only Golden Light, Qiushou and Lingya. However, they have such an opportunity because of the karma of the 10,000 Immortals formation. Kundi smiled and said, don't blame me. Tong Tian only felt that his breath was stuck in his throat and he was speechless. Back then he had followed the 7 Immortals. Only the long-eared Dingguang Immortal had truly betrayed them. Among the other 6, the Golden-Hooped Immortal had already returned. The Black Cloud Immortal had refused to surrender to the Western sect from the beginning to the end. He had even refused to become a human. He had only turned into a golden turtle and was immersed in his own world in the 8 treasures pool of merit, ignoring everyone. Even when Duobao went to see him, he had closed his eyes and swam by himself. He did not speak at all, just like an ordinary golden turtle. After the Pilu Immortal was captured by the Western sect, he was disheartened and gave up everything. His whereabouts were unknown and his whereabouts were unknown. However, what made Tong Tian feel the most heartache was the Qiushou Immortal, Lingya Immortal and Golden Light Immortal who had been reduced to mounts. However, as Kundi said, there was a big reason behind this. It could be considered a problem left behind by history. The Qiushou Immortal and the other 2 were all captured by the 3 Golden Immortals of the Chan School during the 10,000 Immortal formation and reduced to mounts. The Qiushou Immortal was taken in as a mount by the Chan School's disciple, Munjushri Heavenly Lord Guangfa. The Lingya Immortal was taken in as a mount by the Chan School's disciple, Samantabhadra Spiritual Master, while the Golden Light Immortal was taken in as a mount by Si Hang Spiritual Master. After that, Munjushri, Samantabhadra, and Si Hang became bodhisattvas of the Western sect. However, the subduing of the Qiushou Immortal and Golden Light Immortal happened before they converted to the Western sect. Therefore, Kundi's words of "don't blame me for this" made Tong Tian choke. With a flash of his green robe, Primeval Beginning appeared at the door. He looked at Tong Tian calmly and said, "Junior brother is here." Tong Tian snorted and tilted his head. "I don't dare to be called junior brother of the great heavenly lord. I'm Tong Tian of the Jie school." Primeval Beginning's eyes were indifferent. Green light flashed in his sleeves. Tong Tian could not help but take a step back. Primeval Beginning snorted and took a deep breath. Tong Tian snorted forcefully and turned to the Demon Emperor Jun. "The demons have to give me an explanation for what happened back then." The expression on the Demon Emperor's handsome face and the divine light in his eyes were extremely complicated. However, he did not answer for a long time. Tongtian's gaze was like a sword. He stared at the Demon Emperor Dong Huang and the Demon Emperor without blinking. The Demon Emperor and Dong Huang took a deep breath. Determination slowly flashed in their eyes as he took a step forward and said, "The child is insensible and caused trouble for himself." However, the demon court was sealed by the heavens back then and could not leave for many years. We really did not know about this. However, what the child did is wrong. After this matter, we will definitely bring him to the Green Turing Palace to apologize. The Demon Emperor was about to speak when he was stopped by Shihi. Tong Tian said, "Since the Demon Emperor said so and I believe it, I will wait for you at the Green Turing Palace." Fiend Ancestor Rahu said calmly, "When the time comes, I will also go and take a look at the legendary Green Turing Palace." Tongtian's sword light filled the sky as he said calmly, "Not everyone can go to the Green Turing Palace. Furthermore, not just anyone can leave from there." Rahu rolled his eyes and a sharp aura shot towards him. "Are you threatening me?" The Tong Tian sect chuckled. "So what if I'm threatening you?" The two of them were at loggerheads and were full of anger. Just as they were about to fight, their auras were already on the verge of erupting. Jain hurriedly stood up to smooth things over. "This meeting is for the sake of the ancestral land. Please calm down regarding the matter of the immeasurable calamity. There will be a time for karma to be resolved. There is no need to be anxious." Before the two of them could reply, they saw a flash of white light. A woman's figure appeared and said calmly, "How can the Wu people be absent when all the saints are gathered? Since my brothers aren't here, I have no choice but to come and listen." The expressions of the mighty figures turned solemn. They cupped their fists and bowed. Sister Hoodoo, how have you been? The Lady of Earth said calmly, a loser has to have the awareness of a loser. I will do my own thing. What changes can there be? It's unnecessary to say that you've been well. Well, it's a fortunate thing after all. Primordial Beginning's voice was gentle. Sister Hoodoo, the heavenly Tao is not over. Karma is difficult to rely on. There are tens of millions of changes. How confident can the heavenly Tao be in the future? The Lady of Earth bowed. Yes, senior brother is right. I lost my composure. Everyone smiled and did not say anything. They did not show any disobedience. Then everyone looked at Zhuoxiaoduo and Zhuoxiaonian. At that moment, countless people's eyes flashed with surprise and confusion. Everyone had complicated expressions. There seemed to be a picture on Zhuoxiaoduo's chest. One was white and the other was black. Two fish swam happily in front of his chest. Every time they swam, a circle of Tao runes would ripple out. Everyone saw it clearly. That was clearly the Dharma treasure of the Grand Pure One. Why is it on this kid? What is this fellow's background? Could it be? Could it be? Primordial Beginning looked at the two yin-yang fish that were swimming happily. After a long time he said, this child is not bad. The meaning of that sentence was obvious. I'll take care of this kid. Indeed. In the next moment, Zhuan Ti and Jia Yin also spoke in unison. The fiend ancestor Rahu did not say anything, but his eyes flashed with bewilderment. Why does this fellow seem to have the aura of the god-slaying spear? Could it be? Could it be? Dong Huang, Tai Yi, Demon Emperor Jun, and Demon Empress Shihi stared at Zhuoxiaoduo in unison. Their expressions were even more complicated. Why does this kid have the aura of the three-legged golden crow? Could it be? Could it be? Goddess Hoodoo's eyes flickered, but she focused her attention on Zhuoxiaoduo. This little fellow's body is clearly flowing with the aura of the two brothers of water and fire. What's going on? However, this little fellow doesn't seem to be from the Wu people. He's clearly a human kid. As the saying goes, water and fire are incompatible. Among the 5 elements, water and fire are the most obvious. Water extinguishes fire, while fire boils water. It's extremely difficult for water and fire to coexist. However, on this kid's body, there are signs of water and fire complementing each other perfectly. This matter is really puzzling. Could it be? Could it be? Patriarch Nether River and the 2 Western Saints were also surprised. My golden lotus aura? How could it be? Could it be? For a moment, everyone fell into a state of confusion. What is going on? At a glance, why does this kid seem to be related to everyone present? But how is that possible? What kind of opportunity and luck does he have to be able to tie so many karmic ties to one person? This kid is just following beside the Grandmaster of Heaven in confusion. He seems to be fine, but it's also as if everything has nothing to do with him. Don't you know that everyone is looking at you? Zhuoxiaoduo was also surprised. What's going on? Why are all of you looking at me with such strange gazes after I've arrived? Could it be? Could it be? Chapter 1374. At this moment, a beam of rich green light shone brightly, and a thick aura of life origin instantly filled the air. It was the Spirit Emperor and Grasshopper. Elder Wan Minsheng. The two of them came together. Elder Wan felt that his status was lower than everyone present. After greeting them respectfully, he said in a friendly and gratified tone, "Little friend, it's great that you're here too." Everyone was stunned. The spirit tribe that just came was also related to this kid, and it sounded like they had a deep relationship? Could it be? If that was the case, that this little fellow's karmic laws are really quite complete. Everyone focused their attention on Wan Minsheng. Their eyes were filled with pure merit chi, which was enough to form a golden body of merit. It was so rich that it could not be dispersed. This kind of merit chi seemed to have been combed and recognized, and it was faintly related to the great Tao. Yuanshi, Jane, Zhuanti, and Tong Tian were surprised. Others had not become saints and could not feel it, but the 4 of them were real saints. How could they not feel it? This one Xingming already had the foundation of a saint in his body. The 4 of them knew very well what this meant. This was the great Tao's holy sound. In other words, this person would become a saint sooner or later, this was for sure. And it was the kind of unspoken rules which could not be changed. No one could change it. It was as if he had a golden mouth and jade words, and had already determined his future from the very beginning. But the great Tao had been chaotic for so many years. How could such a thing happen? Besides, even a Tao ancestor did not have the right to casually promise a saint. What was going on? The series of unforeseen events that had happened today, why was it so strange? In particular, what had happened to Wan Minxing had completely confused all the mighty figures present. Since ancient times, such a thing had never happened. Yuanshi said lightly, human tribe, Wu people, demon tribe, spirit tribe, Azura tribe, Taoist tribe, West. As he was speaking, dragon and phoenix cries sounded in the air, and auspicious chi filled the sky. A golden dragon, a phoenix, and a qilin flew over, its 4 hooves stepping on auspicious clouds of virtue as it galloped over. Ancestral dragon, primordial phoenix, and qilin. They turned into 2 men and 1 woman, standing in front of everyone. Sorry I'm a bit late, the primordial phoenix said coldly. The qilin and the ancestral dragon looked proud as if they were saying that they should have been late. The strong had the right to make others wait. You should wait for us. We shouldn't have waited for you first. That's why we came late at the last moment. It's only logical, reasonable, and natural. Are you angry? Let me ask you, are you angry? Everyone's expression was cold. These 3 fellows are a little annoying and annoying. Ancestral Gragon and the other 2 on the other hand, did not have any scruples at all. They acted as if there was no one around them. Shifeng looked around and saw Zhu Xiaoyan. She suddenly smiled and said, "This little girl is so cute." As he spoke, he was about to step forward. The Grandmaster of Heaven took a step to the left without a trace and blocked in front of Zhu Xiaoyan. His gaze was calm as he looked at Shifeng and said, "This little girl is indebted to Jie School. I once promised that I will bear the karma on her." Shifeng stopped in her tracks and stopped in her tracks. Then, her gaze suddenly became exceptionally sinister. She stared at the Grandmaster of Heaven and said indifferently, "Senior Brother Shanqing, ever since you reappeared, you have become more and more nosy." The Grandmaster of Heaven smiled, and his gaze suddenly became sharp. "You have a problem with that?" Shifeng revealed a warm smile and said indifferently, "I'm afraid that your Jie School can't bear my karma. It's not up to you to say whether you can bear it or not. You have to prove it with facts. However, I welcome you to try." The Grandmaster of Heaven did not retreat. Primordial Beginning frowned and said, "Are you a warmonger? How many people have you offended since you came here? It's as if the entire world owes you. Behave yourself." The Grandmaster of Heaven said angrily, "What right do you have to talk about me? Back then you owed me." Primordial Beginning flicked his sleeves and said, "Enter the palace and take a seat." As soon as Primordial Beginning said that, everyone's expressions instantly became solemn, interesting, and serious. Their eyes revealed longing and inexplicable uneasiness. Take a seat. The weight of these 2 words was too heavy. The difference between having a seat and not having a seat was huge. Before the primeval Lord of Heaven could finish his words, a purple mist suddenly surged. At this moment, the door of the Purple Cloud Dao Palace seemed to suddenly open. However, in reality no one was able to enter. This was because an otherworldly power was circling back and forth at the entrance of the palace. However, that power did not affect one's vision. In the blink of an eye, everything inside could be seen at a glance. There was nothing that could not be seen. In fact, apart from Zhu Xiaoduo and his wife, everyone else was clear about the situation inside the Purple Cloud Dao Palace. After all, to them, what they had dreamed of countless times in the middle of the night was only a futon in the Purple Cloud Dao Palace. A futon in the Purple Cloud Dao Palace was the seat of a saint. This was an ironclad rule that everyone knew. As long as one sat down in the Purple Cloud Dao Palace, one would be as old as the heavens and the earth, as old as the sun and the moon. Even if one's body was immeasurable, one would not be destroyed. A saint would not die. Jayin looked at the futon inside and sighed softly, "Junior brother, do you regret it?" Zhuan Ti, who was beside him, said indifferently, "Since you have already done it, you won't regret it." Jain sighed and smiled, "I'll accompany you." Zhuan Ti said indifferently, "If you accompany me, won't I disappear for nothing? If you accompany me, I will die." Primordial Beginning, Tong Tian Jain Zhuan Ti Hutu Demon Emperor Jun, Dong Huang Tai Demon Ancestor Luo Ho, Demon Empress Shihi Ancestor Mingi Chan Sheng, Emperor Ling Wan Minxing, Zhu Xiaoduo, Zhu Xiaoyan Ancestor Dragon, Primordial Phoenix and Qilin. A total of 18 people were looking at the Purple Cloud Dao Palace. At this moment, the palace was empty. There were only a few futons and a few pillars. Apart from that, there was nothing else. The so-called Dao lecture in the Purple Cloud Dao Palace did not even have a table. There was only an empty futon at the top. It was only slightly taller than the other futons. There was no difference between the rest. Zhuoxiao Duo looked at the empty hall and said in Zhuoxiaonian's ear, "Is this the legendary gathering place of the saints? It's too simple and crude. Even our primary school in the Astral Soul's mainland has much more comfortable facilities than this place. Even if there's no sofa, at least there are a few armchairs." Zhuoxiaonian rolled her eyes and said, "This is something from many years ago. It's inevitable that it's a little backward. If it can be compared with modern facilities. It's strange, right? You're trying to compare something that happened tens of millions of years later with something that happened tens of millions of years ago. You're really interesting." Zhuoxiao Duo suddenly understood and said, Yes, I'm too picky. It's my fault. But there's not even a folding chair. It's too unreasonable." Zhuoxiaonian sighed and said, "Shut up. I guess folding chairs hadn't been invented yet." Yuanshi, Jane, Tongtian, Zhuanti. Everyone was speechless. The question and answer between the two of you, the weirdness of the question and answer is one thing. But your answers are too unexpected. It really caught us off guard. However, since the beginning of the world until now, who dared to complain that the futons in the Purple Cloud Dao Palace were simple and crude? In fact, there was not even a single word of discussion. Only this pair of weirdos stood outside the Purple Cloud Dao Palace and complained about the facilities in the Purple Cloud Dao Palace. She complained about not having a sofa, a folding stool, and an armchair. "Do you want me to arrange a bed for you inside? Is that okay?" "Okay." Little did they know that if someone really made this suggestion, Zhuoxiao Duo would definitely raise both hands and agree, "Great. Humanizing. Awesome." Unfortunately, no one suggested that. Everyone looked over and couldn't help but be stunned. There had always been only 7 futons in the Purple Cloud Dao Palace. There was one that was slightly higher than the others and there were 3 below it. This was a universally acknowledged law. But now, when everyone looked inside, they saw that it was a serious matter. There were not only 6 futons outside the main seat, but there was 1 on top and 9 below. 5 on one side and 4 on the other. Everyone's expression was complicated. What's going on? Is it going to expand? There was still the aura of the Tao Ancestor lingering in the Purple Cloud Dao Palace, but the Tao Ancestor had never appeared. After the 9 clans split and the Way of Heaven was incomplete, the Tao Ancestor had disappeared for a long time. No one knew where he was now and what he was doing. In fact, it was easy to understand. The ancestral land was originally one. It was like a person. It was complete. However, the ancestral land had suddenly split into 9 continents. It was no different from a person suddenly being divided into 9 parts. It was almost like being dismembered. What's more, the 9 continents were still alive. That way, 9 split heavenly Tao personalities would definitely be produced. It was already very painful for an ordinary person to have 2 split personalities, let alone be divided into 9. The Tao Ancestor was in such a situation. He had merged with the Tao. The Tao Ancestor was the Way of the Heavenly Tao, and the Way of the Heavenly Tao was the Tao Ancestor. Once the Great Tao split, the Way of the Heavenly Tao split as well. The Tao Ancestor could not help but split that even if the ancestral land was restored and the continent was gathered again, the 9 continents had returned and reunited. However, the 9 personalities had gathered into one. Which one should be the main body? That was completely different from having thousands of incarnations. Before the return of the other clans and continents, the heavenly Tao of the 3 continents could still operate in a small area and affect it after tens of thousands of years of communication and reconciliation. However, now that all of them had returned, the most direct result, or rather, the current situation was a mess. Given the current state of the Tao Ancestor, according to modern medical theory, it was like there were 9 serious schizophrenic personalities in a body. Moreover, these personalities were arguing with each other every day, every minute, and every second. They were fighting for power. They all believed that they should have the final say and that they should have the control of this body. Under such circumstances, the Purple Cloud Palace no longer had a master. All the sages and mighty figures were well aware of this. However, without the suppression of the Tao Ancestor, the Purple Cloud Palace had changed on its own. This kind of unexpected change was undoubtedly shocking and even shocking to everyone. Chapter 1375. Even Primordial Beginning and the others could not set up anything in the Purple Cloud Palace. However, the number of futons increased from 6 to 9. This in itself already explained too many problems. Even though the Tao Ancestor was not here, everyone knew that the 9 futons represented the positions of the 9 sages. As for who set it up and who changed it, everyone knew what was going on. It must be an existence that surpassed the Tao Ancestor. And it was best not to probe or suspect such an existence. Everyone cultivated all their lives to improve. Now, this powerful existence was undoubtedly the motivation for everyone to move forward. Everyone, the 9 positions are clear at a glance, Primordial Beginning said indifferently. Yuanshire said faintly, the position has long been decided. There is no need for any struggle. Whoever can enter and sit down is their own fate. He could tell at a glance that there was a powerful restriction at the door. As for the restriction, it was true that it couldn't stop them from barging in. However, the key question was who would be able to sit down after entering. That was the real problem that they had to face next. Let's go in together, Jane said. Let's go in together, Demon Ancestor Rahu said. Demon Emperor Jun's eyes flickered. He said together with Shiha, let's go in together. Primordial Beginning turned his head indifferently. His expression did not change. At the right moment, a white light flashed. The mystical aura lingering above the purple cloud palace's door suddenly dissipated. The 18 of them entered together. Everyone quickly entered the purple cloud palace. Their gazes focused on the futons on the ground. They saw the Taoist rhyme flowing on the futons. The Taoist rhyme aura on each futon was different. After all, they had just entered the purple cloud palace without a Tao ancestor in charge. Everyone did not act rashly and did not fight for the futons. At the level of the experts present, everyone knew that this kind of thing could not be snatched and could not be snatched. Everything was predestined. It was not something that could be fought for by force. Primordial Beginning slowly walked past all the futons and hesitated. Tong Tian said angrily, sit. Sit in the first one. Why are you hesitating? Primordial Beginning rolled his eyes and said casually, did you not recognize me as your second brother? Tong Tian paused and immediately became furious. It's none of my business if you want to sit or not. Yuanshire snorted and finally sat down on the first futon on the right. The cattail hassock was originally emitting thousands of rays of light, but its aura was always calm. As Premier sat down, the rays on it were all hidden under his body. All of a sudden, the primeval Lord of Heaven sat still. However, his chi was changing subtly. Tong Tian snorted, walked to the front of Premier, and sat down on the first futon on his left. In an instant, the sword chi soared into the sky and then returned. Tong Tian also sat upright like a mountain. In just a few moments, 2 saints had already sat down. Jain was silent. He took a step forward and sat down on the primeval land. Just as Zhuanti was about to say something, he saw a flash of light on the futon opposite him. A woman's figure appeared on the futon out of thin air. For a moment, the light radiated in all directions and was extremely dazzling. The woman with the head of a human and the body of a snake was none other than Her Majesty, Sovereign Nuwa. Although Nuwa did not come in person, there was still a place for her here. The virtual shadow sat down on the futon with a surprised look on her face. Apparently, she didn't expect that there would still be seats available even though she didn't come. She slowly said, everyone, nice to meet you. Everyone greeted her. Then Nuwa's figure disappeared from the futon. However, everyone knew that the futon had already been taken. Those who overstepped their boundaries would not only not be able to get the futon, but also become sworn enemies with Nuwa. Next, they could only choose the 5th one. According to the order, it should be Taoist Zhuanti's turn to choose the 5th one. After all, he was the last saint present who hadn't taken a seat yet. Everyone turned to look at him. Taoist Zhuanti pondered for a moment and said, fellow Taoist Hongyun, back then you gave in to me once. Now I'll give in to you again. Fellow Taoist, please take a seat. Everyone was moved when they heard this. This was the seat of a saint. How could Zhuanti be willing to give it up? Chan Xing took a deep breath and his face suddenly turned red. Karma. Giving in back then was a cause. Giving in now was an effect. After today, karma had disappeared. However, Zhuanti's generosity this time still touched Chan Xing. After all, although he had good intentions back then, he had done it unintentionally. If he knew that the futon seat was related to the position of a saint, he wouldn't have given it up no matter what. Now that Zhuanti had given up the futon seat, he knew the meaning of the seat. The meaning of the two was naturally different. Thank you, fellow Taoist. Chan Xing stepped forward. A figure flashed and Patriarch Mingi stood in front of him with narrowed eyes. A mere half-saint dares to take the seat of a saint? Taoist Zhuanti said indifferently, I'm the one who wants to give in. The meaning of his words couldn't be more obvious. If you objected, if you wanted to stop, you would be my enemy. Beside him, Jain also raised his head indifferently. Mingi snorted coldly. Under the combined aura of the two, he had to take a step back. Chan Xing only felt the pressure on his body suddenly disappear. He said gratefully, thank you, fellow Taoist. Under the envious and jealous gazes of everyone, he walked towards the fifth futon. At this moment, Changxing only felt that his life had reached the peak. The excitement in his heart could no longer be contained. His face was flushed and his body was trembling slightly. Even his walking movements were a little out of shape and not nimble. The position of a saint. His lifelong regret. Now he finally had a chance to reunite. Jane looked at Kundi with a sigh. Karma was important, but he still couldn't understand why Xuanti had given up the seat. Xuanti smiled bitterly but didn't say anything. Changxing had already walked in front of the fifth futon. He took a deep breath and said, "Everyone, thank you for giving in." As he spoke, he lifted his robe and was about to sit down. But at this moment, a dazzling golden brilliance suddenly appeared on the futon. The golden light formed a shield in an instant and bulged up forcefully, firmly holding Changxing's body. Even with the power of a half-saint, Changxing couldn't sit down. Changxing's embarrassment at this moment simply rose to the extreme in an instant. He couldn't sit down. He couldn't sit down? The opportunity had been given to him, but he couldn't sit down. Who could he blame? Under the watchful eyes of everyone, Changxing's face flushed red, and his eyes were full of disbelief and unwillingness. He exerted all his power and sat down with all his strength. If he couldn't sit on this futon today, he was afraid that he would become an eternal joke for thousands of years. However, no matter how hard he tried, even if he didn't stop self-destructing and shattering his primordial spirit, it was still useless. The golden light was eternal. It held Changxing in the air, silent and calm. "You can't sit down. There's no place for you here." Changxing's eyes were about to split open, and blood flowed from the corner of his mouth. But his eyes gradually became desperate. Chapter 1376. Changxing could feel that the resistance from the praying mat under his body was getting stronger and stronger. If he did not give up and continued to try, he might be sent flying. He let out a long sigh and finally straightened his body. He turned around and looked at the praying mat in front of him. His eyes were filled with despair. This was the biggest regret of his 2 lifetimes that he had been dreaming of. Could it be that sometimes it would be there and sometimes it was hard to force it? After a long time, Toad Saint's heart was filled with complicated emotions. This sigh was truly full of twists and turns, soul-stirring. Even Zhou Xiaoduo and Zhou Xiaonian felt bad for him when they heard it. It was not that he did not give him a chance, but he was useless when he was given a chance. Changxing stood there in a daze for a while. Finally he laughed bitterly. "It's not that I gave it away and it's not that I missed it. It's just that I can't do it." The bitterness in his words made everyone present feel even more bitter when they heard it. Mingi let out a sigh of relief and said, "How can it be easy to get one's luck and strength? The position of a sage is useless if you lack anything. Is it something that anyone can get just because they want it? Hongyun, after this attempt you should give up, right?" Changxing stood there in a daze and did not say a word. Yuanshi said lightly, "Why should I be disappointed? If you are not worthy of the position, why should I be disappointed? You are already lucky to have the chance to try. Why should I ask for more?" Changxing murmured. "If I am not worthy of the position, why should I be disappointed? Why should I be disappointed? Dare I ask, great heavenly venerable, why am I not worthy?" Yuanshi said, "The so-called sage is not something that can be achieved through hard work. My eldest senior brother became a sage because he had great achievements. He wrote books and established a theory. He enlightened the world and spread his ideas to the world. Only then can he become a sage. My third junior brother became a saint because he wanted to seize a chance of survival for the masses. Just this intention alone is already a great benevolence, which is why he could become a saint. Empress Hua risked her life to nourish the sky and save the entire world of living beings. How could she not become a saint with such great achievements? Receive and establish the Western sect. Make a great wish to enlighten the people of the world. Only after overcoming all hardships can one become a saint." Yuanshi said, "Hongyun, what have you done for the world? What makes you a saint? How could it be so easy to become a saint with just a bit of luck, a bit of karma, and a lifetime of hard work?" These words were like the evening drum and the morning bell. They were also like a huge mountain that pressed down on Changxing's heart. What makes you a saint? How can becoming a saint be so easy? Changxing's eyes were unfocused. He lowered his head in shame and muttered to himself, "That's right. What have I done for all living beings? Why should I become a saint? Just because of a fortuitous encounter, a bit of karma, and a lifetime of bitter cultivation? How could he become a saint just by protecting himself and not daring to provoke any karma? How could he become a saint just by cultivating hard and ignoring the suffering of all living beings? How could he become a saint just by relying on his selfish safety and accumulating cultivation strength? Then there were too many people in this world who were qualified to become a saint. After a long time, Changxing finally sighed and said, "What the great heavenly Lord said is right. I am indeed not worthy." These words were spoken with incomparable difficulty, with incomparable reluctance and incomparable bitterness. However, there was also a trace of relief and understanding mixed within. Yes, I am indeed not worthy. Changxing turned around and quietly walked to the corner of the Purple Cloud Palace. He sat cross-legged in the corner and did not move. This trip to the Purple Cloud Palace was a great opportunity and great joy. At this moment he had lost all his face and even had thoughts of suicide. However, he still did not leave. Yes, I am not qualified to become a saint. However, since I am already here, I want to hear what you have to say. I, Red Cloud, have been reborn. Now, I'm not just Red Cloud anymore. I'm also Toad Saint. I'm a living being in the Wizard Alliance's territory. Even if I have to risk my life, I have to do something for the land where I live. It could be considered as my only counterattack to the sentence, "I'm not worthy," that judged me for life. Changxing Hongyun's dejection did not attract more attention from the people present. Everyone's focus was naturally on the empty fifth futon. Di Jun and the others' eyes were burning. Everyone wanted to sit on it, but no one dared to. With Changxing as an example, who dared to act rashly. If they could not sit on it like Changxing, wouldn't it be embarrassing? However, if they did not try, they would inevitably regret it for the rest of their lives. What if they succeeded? At this moment, Tongtian suddenly said, "Sister Hutu, sit." No one objected to Tongtian's suggestion. Hutu opened the reincarnation with her own body. This kind of merit was unprecedented. It was not inferior to Empress Was. Hutu's eyes were slightly complicated. She murmured, "That year, I resolutely sacrificed myself to reincarnate for the sake of Wu people. This willingness was mixed with too much selfishness. How could I sit on such a noble seat?" Selfishness is not a sin. Sister's heroic deeds in those days have benefited generations of people. No one can deny the boundless meritorious merit. Yuanshi said, "Sister Hutu, please sit." Hutu took a breath. She walked forward slowly and sat down calmly. Golden light radiated and merged into her body. Hutu sat on the futon steadily. She was solemn and elegant. The Toad Saint let out another sigh from the corner. It closed its eyes that it had just opened. He wanted to see if Hutu would be like him, or if she could barely sit on it with all her strength. However, after a glance, he felt that he was the only one who suffered a greater blow. At this moment, the 5 seats had been determined. Next was the 6th seat. Yuanshi said, "My eldest senior brother has indeed left this starry sky. However, he has left his inheritance. His seat should not be left to others." Everyone was surprised. They all narrowed their eyes. "You want to keep an empty seat?" Tongtian said, "Eldest senior brother does have a successor here." Holding back the grievance in his heart, he pointed at Zhou Xiaoduo and said, "Xiaoduo, come and sit here." Zhou Xiaoduo was stunned. He pointed at his own nose and said in disbelief, "Me? Of course. This." Zhou Xiaoduo looked at the futon. To be honest, he was a little disgusted. It was just a lousy thing. At most, it had a little light effect. Look at you guys fighting for it. You guys are so ignorant. However, under the gaze of Yuanshi and Tongtian, Zhou Xiaoduo had to take Zhou Xiaonian's hand and walked over. He muttered softly, "My cultivation is shallow. How can I sit on such a high-class seat?" Tongtian insisted, "Just try it. No one is counting on you. What if you can sit down?" Yes, this was also the main reason why no one actually tried to stop him even though everyone had their doubts. Zhou Xiaoduo sighed and said, "All right, I'll try it. I'm just a junior. I'm not afraid of losing face." Then he took a deep breath and sat down on the floor. Boom. This time, the situation was completely different from that of the others. It actually caused an earth-shaking, mountain-shaking sound. The rumbling sound shook the void for a long time. Everyone was speechless. Yuanshi's lips twitched and he looked at him strangely. "Ah, damn it." Zhou Xiaoduo screamed. Fortunately, he was in time and his mind was clear. He changed the word, "damn it," to "damn it." Otherwise, he would have been beaten up. How could he be forgiven for saying such filthy things in the Purple Cloud's Dao Palace? Zhou Xiaoduo's face was distorted. He tried his best to stop himself from touching his butt. "Damn it, it hurts. It hurts so much. Feels like my butt has been split into 8 pieces." Just now, he saw Changsheng fail to sit on the seat even after using all his strength. He more or less knew what was going to happen. The opportunity was right in front of him. Yuanshi and Tong Tian had endorsed him. Since he had decided to try, he had to try his best. He had to use all his strength to sit down. His cultivation base was too low, and he was far from being able to match up to any of them. The possibility of him successfully sitting on the throne was close to zero, and Toad Saint was the best proof of that. Therefore, even though Zhou Xiaoduo's expression didn't change, he had already secretly mobilized all of his cultivation and used all of his strength to concentrate all of his strength on his buttocks, and fiercely sat down. However, he did not expect that the recoil, the glow, and the power of the mysterious force would not be there. Zhou Xiaoduo used all his strength and sat on the futon. Below the futon was the main body of the Purple Cloud's Dao Palace. Zhou Xiaoduo's action was equivalent to an ordinary person using all his strength to fiercely sit down on the hard granite. The feeling at that moment was simply amazing. Zhou Xiaoduo had successfully used his butt to bear the strong recoil of all his strength. For ordinary people, even if they couldn't accept it, they would at most use their head to smash against a thick wall and bleed until they died. But for Zhou Xiaoduo to use his butt to sit on the ground, it was truly a strange action that no one had ever done before. It was a spectacle that made people gasp in amazement. The result of this was that the Purple Cloud's Dao Palace did not react at all. From the beginning to the end, it only made a loud sound, and all the strength was reflected back to Zhou Xiaoduo's, but that Zhou Xiaoduo felt that his butt had cracked. It was burning and painful. He opened his mouth wide and suppressed the scream that had already reached his throat. He tried to close his mouth, but the muscles on his face were twisted, showing the pain he was enduring. Damn it, this is not right. Where did the strength that could support his butt and prevent him from sitting down go? I'm like a retard. I used my white and tender butt to sit on a rock that is at least 100,000 times harder than my butt. I even sat down and made an earth-shattering sound. This is the Purple Cloud's Dao Palace. Does this count as blasphemy against a sacred place like the Purple Cloud's Dao Palace? When he sat down, everyone opened their eyes wide and did not blink. Then, their expressions were extremely interesting. Everyone had many years of self-restraint. When they encountered something, they were rarely surprised or shocked. No one could tell that they were shocked. Unless they could not help it, they would never laugh. However, this loud sound, this distorted expression, and that crisp cracking sound were simply too fucking ridiculous. This was the Purple Cloud's Dao Palace. There was actually such a weirdo here. Chapter 1377. In that instant, Changsheng's eyes almost popped out of their sockets. Fuck. Can it not be so unreal? What did this kid do to deserve this? What did he contribute to the world? What merit did he have? Others might not know him, but I do. Other than his cheap mouth, he's better than me in every other aspect. How can he be better than me in any other aspect? Why did he sit down just like that? How can he bully me like that? But that was not the end. Zhou Xiaoduo grimaced in pain. His butt was getting more and more painful, and there was no sign of it getting better. The strong self-healing ability of a high-level cultivator seemed to have been disconnected. Zhou Xiaoduo could almost conclude that the bones in his butt were 99% broken, or maybe even comminuted fractures. I can't even heal on the praying mat. Fuck. Finally, he could not help but stand up and say, Nian Mao, try sitting down too. I feel a little uncomfortable sitting down. Everyone was speechless. Zhou Xiaonian was surprised when she heard that. She asked, a little uncomfortable? Then she hesitated and said, can I try? No one said a word. Why don't I try? Under Zhou Xiaoduo's urging, Zhou Xiaonian suppressed her uneasiness and changed seats with Zhou Xiaoduo. She sat down gently and frowned slightly. It's indeed hard and uncomfortable. She stood up as she spoke. After all, he did not ask her to do it. She was just helping her husband go through the motions. When they're outside, I have to give my husband face. This is a necessary act. Also, it's not that my husband is insensible or rude, but this praying mat is indeed uncomfortable. Everyone's eyes followed in Changsheng's footsteps and almost flew out. She sat down. She really sat down. She sat down so easily. Similarly, when the girl sat down, there was also no sign of any abnormalities. Everyone's expression was complicated. They all had the same thought. Is the praying mat broken? Then something even more horrifying happened. Zhou Xiaoduo vaguely felt that he couldn't sit on this cattail hassock. It wasn't because his butt would crack if he sat on it, but because he couldn't sit on it, or rather, he shouldn't sit on it. Zhou Xiaoduo didn't take it too seriously. He didn't want to sit there anyway. Seeing that Zhu Xiaoyan had also stood up, she said, "This futon is not very comfortable to sit on, so we won't sit on it." "I don't want to sit anymore. I don't want to sit anymore. No. Sit. Yes. Fuck." The 16 powerhouses present swallowed their saliva in unison and swallowed the word that they wanted to blurt out. This was the Purple Cloud Palace. One had to pay attention to one's appearance and demeanor. One must not speak fragrant words. Premier and Tong Tian sighed. "Eldest senior brother, it's not that we don't want to help you, but this brat. He doesn't feel comfortable sitting there." It was all the Purple Cloud Palace's fault for not preparing a sofa. Or a bed. If he were to lie down here, he would probably feel comfortable. Then the Nether River Patriarch said, "Since the two of you feel uncomfortable, let me give it a try." Before anyone had time to react, he who was the closest to the seat dashed over and sat down. "Bastard." The dozen or so people who finally reacted shouted angrily in unison. Even if he didn't want to sit, there were so many people here. How could it be Nether River's turn? Just as they were about to attack. Boom. After a loud explosion, the Nether River Patriarch screamed. Blood splattered everywhere. A force suddenly burst out from the cattail hassock and sent the Nether River Patriarch, who was about to sit down, flying. The power of the sudden appearance of the power was already appalling, and the speed of the reaction was even more astonishing. The combined power of a dozen people had only hit the afterimage of the Nether River Patriarch that was sent flying. Boom. The Nether River Patriarch, who was sent flying, was stuck on the pillar of the Purple Cloud Palace like a piece of paper. Blood gushed out from all over his body like a fountain. She lost consciousness and slowly slid down the pillar. His blood and chi evaporated as soon as it flowed out, turning into blood-colored chi and fusing into the void. By the time he lay on the ground with his eyes closed, he had lost half of his cultivation. His entire body was lying on the ground quietly, unconscious and unconscious. Seeing this, no one dared to act rashly. They all looked at the Nether River with complicated eyes. Then they turned to look at the cattail hassock. There seemed to be a faint shadow flashing on it. This meant that the cattail hassock was already taken. They didn't see anything else clearly. The shadow disappeared again. Eldest senior brother is indeed very powerful. He is not in this realm, but he can still manifest here. The primeval Lord of Heaven sighed. In fact, he didn't see it clearly, but it didn't stop him from saying that. Obviously, the sixth cattail hassock was already taken. Then there were only 3 people left. Jane coughed and said, "Junior brother, sit." Everyone looked at Zhuan-Ti. Zhuan-Ti sighed and said, "When the secrets of heaven were in chaos, I reopened the world and sowed karma in the human world. It was against heaven's will. I'm afraid I can't sit on the throne now." As soon as he said that, everyone snorted. "If it weren't for you, would we have come here? You're so free." They all looked sideways. Zhuan-Ti walked to the front of the 7th cattail hassock and slowly sat down. However, halfway through, the golden light was dazzling. Even if he tried his best, he couldn't sit down. Then he stood up and sighed softly. "As expected, it's against heaven's will. I've made a fool of myself." Jane looked sad. Junior brother, you sacrificed too much. But in this way, the inheritance of the Western sect will not be extinct." Zhuan-Ti smiled. "Then everything is worth it. Immeasurable celestial venerable." Jane sighed. Then Zhuan-Ti sat down behind Jane and said, "It's the same for me behind senior brother." Jane nodded slowly. His eyes were focused. No one knew what he was thinking. The remaining people's expressions did not change, but their hearts trembled violently. Zhuan-Ti did not sit on it. What did this mean? One of the original 6 saints had been eliminated. This was simply an earth-shattering matter that shook the foundation. The 6 saints were the pillars of the world. Now, one had left and one had been eliminated. Half of the sky had collapsed. Even Zhuan-Ti could not sit on the 7th cattail hassock. The remaining people's hearts were thumping. They were stunned for a few seconds, but no one moved. Then, the primordial phoenix and the ancestral dragon took a step forward at the same time. Then, the ancestral dragon hesitated and took a step back. He did not expect the primordial phoenix to take a step back at the same time. Then they smiled awkwardly. "You do it? You do it?" Everyone was stunned. This might be the only time in their lives that the ancestral dragon and the primordial phoenix were being modest to each other. They did not expect it to be the Saint Throne meditation cushion, that it was simply earth-shattering and unprecedented. "You do it?" The ancestral dragon retreated to the ranks. The primordial phoenix bit her lip and walked towards the Saint Throne. Her heart was pounding. I'm afraid I can't sit down either. With a burst of golden light, the primordial phoenix's premonition became reality. Indeed, she could not sit down. She walked to Chan Sheng's side with an ashen face and sat down silently. Her face was dejected. Beside him was the half-dead Mingi. The primordial phoenix was sitting between the two of them. Then the ancestral dragon went up. He also had no chance. He flicked his sleeves and left, sitting at the side unhappily. Then the Qilin also could not sit down. The ancient god clan was completely wiped out. The three of them sat in a row and looked at each other. While they were depressed, they felt an inexplicable sense of comfort and balance. You didn't sit on it either. I'll let you. It had to be said that this kind of thinking was simply a little strange. Chan Sheng, who could not sit on it in the beginning, looked much more comfortable. Indeed, I'm not the only one who can't sit on it. These fellows are all stronger than me, but none of them can sit down. Wahada, what the hell was this inexplicable joy? Those who had already sat down were not in a hurry. Those who had already proven that they could not sit on it were not in a hurry. Instead, they were all looking forward to it. It would be best if none of you could sit on it. Putting everything else aside, demon ancestor Rahu should be hanging by a thread. Wahada, the ancestral dragon said directly, Lord Demon Ancestor, sit. Demon ancestor Rahu was stunned for a moment and hesitated for a moment. He remembered that he only had monstrous sins and did not seem to have any so-called merit, so he said angrily, I don't care. He did not even try. He walked to the ancestral dragon's side and sat down. He turned his head and said, say one more word. After you're done, I'll wait for you outside the door. The ancestral dragon was furious. If you don't want to say it, then don't say it. Who are you trying to scare? Those who had not tried yet were only Di Jun, Tai Yi, Shihi, Ling Huang and Wan Minxing. However, there were still 3 futons. Everyone had mixed feelings about this. Could it be that 3 of these 5 could become saints? This. Demon Emperor Jun took a deep breath and stepped forward. Shihi and Tai Yi took a step forward, one on the left and one on the right. The Demon Emperor slowly sat down. This time, the resistance of the golden light was not strong. However, Demon Emperor Di Jun tried his best and still did not sit on it. He was only halfway there when the golden light blocked him. Shihi quietly reached out and grabbed the Demon Emperor's left hand, activating her demon power. Emperor Jun sat down another 3 inches and was only a short distance away from sitting on the cattail hassock. Donghuang Tai Yi reached out and grabbed the Demon Emperor's right hand, activating his demon power. The 3 of them worked together. Demon Emperor Jun finally sat down firmly on the praying mat. No matter how he sat on it, no matter how he would be bounced up when he let go, and no matter how one of them sat on the ground without a futon. In any case, he sat down. The 7th saint position belonged to the demon clan. Demon Emperor Jun's face was a little red. He held his wife with his left hand and his brother with his right. He forced a smile and said, sorry. He did not dare to let go. If he did, he would be bounced out. Damn it, my saint position is so awkward. He was natural and graceful, smiling sweetly. There was nothing shameful about helping her husband. Donghuang Tai Yi's hand was held by Di Jun. He sat on the ground of the Purple Cloud Palace with a cold expression. He lowered his eyes and did not look at anyone. He felt that it was a little embarrassing. Others have 1 person each, but the demon clan has 3 people each. It's fine if one of them sits on the futon, but the other 2 are sitting on the ground. However, my hand is held by Big Brother and can't be separated. As soon as I separate, Big Brother is bounced out of the same position. Damn it. Is there a spring in your same position? Chapter 1378. So far, there were only 2 holy thrones left, but there were still 2 people who had not tried to sit down. They were Emperor Ling and Wan Minxing. With the opportunity in front of them, they had to try even if they knew the chances were slim. Emperor Ling took a deep breath and walked over. As soon as he sat down, the golden light glowed. Then, he could no longer sit down. Emperor Ling had expected this result, so he was not disappointed. With a wry smile, he stood up and sat down among those who did not have a futon. Wan Minxing also wanted to follow. With so many experts in front of him having their halberds broken, Elder Wan felt that he was just a junior, so he didn't want to embarrass himself. Yuanshur opened his eyes and said, now. Zhuo Duo interrupted in surprise, everyone here has tried. Elder Wan, since you are here, why don't you sit down and try? Wan Minxing's face froze. He was forced to come here by Emperor Ling. The spirit clan was not good at fighting. Since ancient times, there had been few outstanding experts. Wan Minxing, who could reach the half-saint level, was one of the most outstanding figures in the spirit clan in the past millions of years. Emperor Ling forced him to come here to show his claws and teeth to the other clans. Don't think that the spirit clan is easy to bully. Look, there are descendants of the spirit clan who have reached the half-saint level. If you want to touch the spirit clan, you should think twice. It would be best if the other clans were afraid of the spirit clan. In this era of great competition, if the spirit clan did not have enough strength, it would become the target of public criticism. It was necessary to show its strength. But neither Emperor Ling nor Elder One had any intention of getting the holy thrones. Even Emperor Ling's attempt was behind the others. It was just a fluke. Now that even the Soul Emperor couldn't sit on it, Elder One naturally decided to sit on the Soul Emperor's side. How could he have a seat on the praying mat? It was better to stop daydreaming. However, at this moment, Zhuxiao's shout made them feel really awkward. Oh, how can I at this? Wan Minxing's face was full of embarrassment. However, Zhuxiao's words were out of goodwill. Moreover, he was pushing the opportunity to Wan Minxing. A wisp of thought flashed across Tongtian's face and he said in a low voice, "Since he's here, it means that we're fated. There's no harm in trying." Hearing Tongtian's words, Wan Minxing politely and cautiously said, "That's it. Dare you?" Then, he quietly came to the side of the 8th praying mat and sat down cautiously. Golden light flickered, and his reaction was no different from the others before. Just as everyone thought that Wan Minxing would return empty-handed, a mysterious yellow light surged from Wan Minxing's body, clashing with the golden light. In less than 3 seconds, the golden light dimmed and fused into Wan Minxing's body. Then Wan Minxing calmly sat down on the 8th sacred seat. The primeval Lord of Heaven and Earth looked up and said softly, "The first sunflower between heaven and earth is extraordinary. Moreover, it will be endowed with immeasurable merit. It is only natural that it is worthy of its position." Tong Tian and the others who had already sat down didn't have any special reaction, but those who couldn't sit down on the other side all widened their eyes. This was especially true for the Spirit Emperor. His eyes almost popped out of their sockets as if they were about to shoot out of their sockets. At this moment, the Spirit Emperor's feelings couldn't be described with words. There was even a sense of confusion as if he was in a dream. Who am I? Where am I? How did this happen? I didn't sit on it myself, but the juniors from my clan did. Even if Wan Minxing is a rising star of my clan, a rare talent, and has already reached the half-sage realm. That's a sage position. How did it end up with him? Who do you think I can reason with? Wan Minxing sat on the praying mat, but he felt uncomfortable all over. But then, the Tao aura and comprehension that continuously surged into his body occupied his mind. Today, everyone has gathered here because of heaven's perception. I believe you all understand the reason. The primeval Lord of Heaven said calmly, "This is the immeasurable tribulation, and also the clear heavenly tribulation. Everyone, all the clans are in the tribulation." After the Western sect reopened the heaven and earth, they went against the tribulation, and the heavens showed signs of going against the heavens. Now, the tribulation has become imperative, which means they have to go through the tribulation. All the living beings of the various clans are in the tribulation, and no one can avoid it. The primeval Lord of Heaven's tone was calm, but the resentment in it could be heard by everyone present. As sages we were fine. However, you reopened the heaven and earth in the tribulation, and went against the heavens, causing the heavens to go against the heavens and even dragged us in. Do you have nothing better to do? When everyone heard this, they were all dissatisfied in their hearts. Although you lost your sage position, you gained immeasurable merit for the Western sect by starting the tribulation. This is definitely not a loss, but what about us? Why should we be dragged into the tribulation by you? Originally, even if it was a tribulation, it was still only the living beings of the various clans and the disciples of the sect who participated in the tribulation. However, there was an additional heavens that went against the heavens, and it easily involved the lives and deaths of the various clans. This matter is simply immoral. After the tribulation, all the clans will be united. The primeval Lord of Heaven said faintly, "Since this matter involves the lives and deaths of the various clans, it is inevitable that the sages will end up in the end. But if it really reaches that stage, I'm afraid." The primeval Lord of Heaven felt really tired. It's also because of this that the tribulation sensed it and asked us to come here for a while. It's also the privilege of the strong, and it's also an exception. But this time, it's also the only chance. Previously, the Tao ancestor was in charge of the overall situation, and there was already a set of rules that could be followed. This time, when the tribulation began again, He originally thought that even if the Tao ancestor was not in charge, there would still be the eldest senior brother to take charge. Now it seemed that it was his turn to control the situation. I have no experience. Moreover, the tribulation this time is more ferocious than the previous ones. It's such a big matter. Previously, even if they fought with each other, they had to take into account the relationship between the clans and leave some leeway to preserve a chance of survival. But now, life and death are at every turn. But who would be willing to see their own clan destroyed? Kundi, what have you done? Tong Tian was furious. Senior brother, don't be angry. Since the establishment of the Western sect, this is the only thing that we have gained some benefits from. Kundi was very handsome and had an outstanding bearing. He smiled warmly and said, I have paid the price of a saint's position. Isn't that enough? Bullshit. Tong Tian was furious. Do you dare to say that from the past until now, you have not considered the gains and losses as your priority? Never. Kundi spoke resolutely and decisively. Tong Tian's sword aura overflowed and was about to erupt. Back then, the God-confirmant tribulation was a conflict between the three sects of the Eastern land. What does it have to do with you? Why did it become the prosperity of the Western sect after all this? You caused trouble everywhere, fanned the flames, and reaped benefits wantonly. In the beginning you sought benefits and avoided harm, and you were successful in every endeavor. Could it be that you were wrong because you said that you considered the gains and losses first? Kundi's face was bitter. Senior brother, how long are you going to hide it? Kundi looked at Yuanshir helplessly. Yuanshir snorted and put on a straight face as if nothing had happened. He did not say a word and was extremely calm. Jane sighed and said, Today, senior brother Shanqing mentioned the past with certainty. However, the truth is not something that can be explained with just a few words. Why don't we take advantage of today to make it clear and let the mighty figures of the various races here make a decision? Is it our Western sect that took advantage of the situation, or has it been a scapegoat for many years? Tong Tian sneered, Oh? I know that the Western sect has a silver tongue and golden lotuses. I want to hear how you, the Western sect master, can reverse the past with a few words. The God-confirmant tribulation seems to be the Western sect that has taken advantage of us and obtained manpower. In the future, we will spread the Eastern land and lay the groundwork for the prosperity of the Western sect. However, there are too many schemes involved. There are so many that it is impossible to count. Jane sighed softly. If not, why would my junior brother make such a sacrifice today? Tong Tian said angrily, In the end it's still just an excuse. You senior brothers can cover up everything by saying that you have sacrificed. Is this what you mean by being the scapegoat? Or are you trying to fool? Why don't I believe it? Could it be that the Western sect has been wronged? Jie Yin's expression did not change. He said in a deep voice, Senior brother is right. We have indeed been wronged. Ah. Tong Tian laughed, Then tell me about your grievances. Where is it? Why don't you tell me in detail? When the God-confirmant tribulation started, the Western sect was just established. There was no one, no power, and no name. Although we knew that the God-confirmant tribulation was not caused by the Western sect and that the three sects signed the God-confirmant list and everything had nothing to do with us, for the future of the Western sect, we could only throw away our skin and join in to seek opportunities to strengthen the Western sect. All of you here are discerning people. You all know the reason. Except for the moment of war and chaos, how can we, the Western sect, have any chance when the three sects are standing side by side? When the three sects finish their investiture and the general trend is established, there will be no chance for us, the Western sect, to preach to the Eastern land. It's true that we have nothing to do with the God-confirmant tribulation of the three sections. However, it's wrong to say that we only joined to cause trouble. At that time you didn't know about the situation. Could it be that your two senior brothers didn't know? Jane looked helpless. At that time, if we said that we joined on our own accord, it would be better to say that we were forced to enter the tribulation. If senior brother Jane and I were not saints, we might have died in the God-confirmant tribulation that day. If we don't enter, we will never be able to prosper. When we enter, we will help you bear the karma. However, we were in the situation at that time. We were just blinded. Our original intention was to recruit some disciples when the Jie sect was weak and their luck had plummeted. We were already satisfied. Although we were suspected of taking advantage of the situation at that time, we might have saved the lives of the disciples of the Jie sect from another level. Hearing that, the Grandmaster of Heaven suddenly stood up. The Jie sect is weak? Their luck has plummeted? Senior brother Jane, what you said, ha. Jane smiled bitterly. Senior brother, have you been living in resentment all these years? Didn't you think about it carefully? Back then the world was fine. Why did you sign the God role? Just to help the heavenly courts? Just to gather the people on the investiture of the gods? What do you mean by the 12 golden immortals have not broken through to the zenith heaven for 1,000 years and caused the tribulation? What kind of ridiculous reason is that? How can the tribulation be triggered by golden immortals? Senior brother primordial beginning, do you really want me to explain the grudges between the three of you? The primordial beginning closed his eyes and said, Tell me. Chapter 1379. Xuan-Ti sighed and said, Back then the 10,000 immortals of Jie school came to court and looked down on the world. However, it's an indisputable fact that the disciples of Jie school often cause trouble in the world. Tong Tian, you claim that you teach everyone without discrimination. However, it's also an indisputable fact that you accept but don't teach. In the long run, it's inevitable that the world will be imbalanced. Jie school was already the #1 sect in the world back then. The people in armor had a strong ability to reproduce and reproduce quickly. If we continue to expand, the living beings will definitely be plunged into misery and the universe will be imbalanced. That's why the calamity started. That's why the original intention of the God-conferment tribulation was to defeat Jie school. As the sect master of Jie school, how can you stay out of it? After a series of changes, there was the matter of the God role. The three sects entered the calamity and established the heavenly courts. Since the three sects have caused the great tribulation of heaven and earth, whether the Western sect enters or not is nothing to you. However, if we really don't enter, we will really be excluded from the chessboard. The decline of Jie school is more in line with the interests of the Western sect. Jane looked a little worried. Hence, there was the battle of the gods back then. The two of us entered the eastern lands several times, and 3,000 red chi returned to the west. The four saints would kill the immortals. How many people in Jie school with high Dao skills have really died? Even those whose bodies have perished have entered the God role. What's the loss? There are indeed innocent and kind people who perished in the battle. There are even many. However, when have the true upper echelons of Jie school been injured? Even if your senior brother Shanqing has been banished, have you ever seen anyone use the 4 immortal vanquishing swords and various treasures after so many years? Those things are connected to your senior brother Shanqing's spiritual will. With a thought, you can take them all back. How is this the path of a loser? Did the senior disciples of Chan school suffer any losses? They just created some karma in the human world. That's all. In particular, I have to mention the Grand Supreme Laozi, the eldest senior brother of the three pure ones. The 3,000 mortal guests of the Jie school that the Western sect had painstakingly taken away from the calamity were educated and prepared to be the backbone. However, fellow Taoist Grand Pure One made a move based on local conditions. He used barbarians to control barbarians and turned the eldest disciple of the Jie school, Duobao, who had been protected long ago, into a Buddha and led that group. That group. Xuan-Ti sighed. There was a hint of difficulty in his words. After all, they were all real disciples of the Western sect back then. Furthermore, when your second senior brother, fellow Taoist Yu Qing, saw fellow Taoist Grand Pure One's actions, he imitated him like a bull and rushed a few disciples under him who agreed with the ideals of the Western sect. He forcefully occupied the important positions and shared the destiny and incense offerings of our sect. For so many years, the Western sect has been said to be prosperous. However, the disciples of Jie school and Chan school occupy more than 90% of the incense offerings in various places. Jane smiled bitterly. Even if they have the name of the Western sect on the surface, how can their roots change? We are all Khanate cultivators. I only have one question for you. No matter how much you change and how much you experience, can you change this foot of yours? Everyone coughed and avoided answering. Perhaps other things could be changed, but this foot could not be changed. That was an undeniable fact. Just like an ordinary person, no matter how successful you were in the future, you could not change who your biological mother was. The Grand Master of Heaven was stunned. He actually felt that he could not refute Xuan-Ti's words. He even doubted them. Jane said calmly, however, the original intention of the Western sect was to spread their ideals and save all living beings. It doesn't matter whose name you use or what name you use. Since it has already become a reality, we don't care about some reputation. Therefore, this karma has continued. However, in the end, everyone is still just scheming and getting what they want. That's all. That's the so-called truth of the past. That's all. The goal of the God-conferment tribulation is not to become a god. Defeating Jia school, falling to the heavens, and returning balance to all living beings is the true core of the tribulation. The three of you are united, but you can't bear to let you lose your position as a saint. Therefore, the Grand Pure One used the heavenly secrets to invite the Tao ancestor to deceive the intelligence of the heavens and let him fall into the tribulation with his true body. He avoided the detection of the heavenly Tao to the greatest extent and increased the tribulation. Otherwise, with the intelligence of the Grand Master of Heaven, how could he not sense that something was wrong with the God-conferment tribulation? Didn't the so-called three sects discuss the God-conferment tribulation a long time ago? Why did it suddenly take a turn for the worse at the critical juncture? Is there no reason for this? The fundamental reason is that the core of the tribulation has changed to defeating Jia school, restoring the heavenly courts, and embarrassing the Grand Master of Heaven. The three pure ones are indeed the strongest saints. With a series of operations, they turned a tribulation into a child's game. On the other hand, senior brother Jain and I have lost our destiny because we forcefully crossed the mortal world several times as saints. The final result of the God-conferment tribulation is that the heavenly courts were restored, Jia school disappeared, the Grand Master of Heaven hid from the world, and the Western sect prospered. However, the disciples of Chan school and Jia school entered Buddhism and used the luck of the incense offerings of the Western sect to eliminate the evil aura of the Jia school of heaven. After 10,000 generations they will return. Otherwise, why would senior brother Shanqing appear here today? Shouldn't he still be imprisoned? Jane sighed. Senior brother Yu Qing, now that senior brother Shanqing's tribulation has passed and he has re-established Jia school, the disciples of the past have returned. Why has the spiritual intelligence shield not been removed? Primordial Beginning said with a straight face, this was set up by the Tao ancestor. How can we go? Jane said, since everything has been said today, then senior brother Yu Qing's disciples, shouldn't they return? Primordial Beginning said calmly, just as Taoist brother said, where are they? What name do they have? They have already spread the teachings of the Western sect for a long time. There's no need for them to return. Just like the treasures of Jia school, although they have returned to Jia school, the name of the Buddha will definitely exist forever. He will still spread the teachings of the Western sect. What's the difference between returning or not to this world and all living beings in the world for generations? Jane sighed. The words of the Primordial Beginning were like a spear attacking a shield. After such a long time, it was already impossible to say who was right and who was wrong, who won and who lost. In this world there was no constant right or wrong. For those in their realm, when had there ever been such a clear distinction between victory and defeat? Everything was just smoke. The rise and fall of the calamity was just a game. However, there was one thing that was different. Their roots had not changed. Your disciples were attached to us and enjoyed the incense offerings of all living beings. However, they were constantly strengthening your foundation. Although the Western sect seemed to be prosperous, it only bore a reputation. 70% of the benefits belonged to you. Zhuan Ti wanted to speak, but Jane stopped him and shook his head. There was no need to say anything. What we want is to spread the teachings of the sect to the world. As for who will spread it, we don't care. Why should we care? Taking what each of them needed was the way to balance things. If the Western sect obtained the name and benefits, it would be another immeasurable tribulation that broke the balance. There was no need to explain those things word by word. Those who understood would understand. Those who did not understand would be left to him. The Grand Master of Heaven's body actually trembled. He questioned Primordial Beginning, second brother. Why didn't you say this before? After Zhuan Ti and Jia Yin revealed the whole story, the spiritual intelligence shield in the Grand Master of Heaven's mind was naturally removed. After all, since he had already said it, there was no point in blocking it. The Prime of Tongtian only felt that his mind was clear, and in that instant too many things slowly flowed through his mind. Who are you calling second brother? Primordial Beginning rolled his eyes unhappily. He felt that he had broken his image, so he pulled a long face again and said calmly, back then I really wanted to beat you up. If I don't, how can I think clearly? Zhuan Ti said that he and Jia Yin entered the mortal world as saints. Didn't eldest senior brother and I personally enter the mortal world? It's just to beat you up. Primordial Beginning pulled a long face. Grand Master of Heaven was speechless. Grand Master of Heaven's body trembled even more. He muttered, back then my disciples. The Premier said with a straight face, when the three of us established our sects and became sages, I warned you that although such teachings could benefit you temporarily, it would backfire in the long run. But you didn't listen. You said that what I said about those with hair and horns being wet and egg-shaped were unworthy of teachings. But I was just saying. There's nothing wrong with you intercepting a chance of survival for all living beings. However, it's wrong for your disciples to kill living beings and spirits. In detail, without anyone's teachings, a ferocious tiger only needs 3 to 5 years to roar in the forest and dominate an area. It can even harm living beings. However, the cubs of the human race can only be considered adults when they are 18 years old. Moreover, their combat power is far inferior. However, once those hairy and armored people have cultivation and intelligence, they will slaughter living beings in a tragic manner that is unparalleled in the mortal world. You can guarantee that the people you teach will not eat humans, but what about their descendants? A turtle lays dozens of eggs a few times a year. A mouse gives birth to dozens of eggs 12 times a year. A snake gives birth to dozens of eggs a year. You taught your disciples. How can it not teach its descendants? Then, who will the negative karma belong to in the end? Then why did I re-establish the Jia school this time? This time it's not something we can calculate. Primordial Beginning pulled a long face and said, however this time, it turned into a clear heavenly tribulation. Heaven and earth will return to one. In the end, only the spirit race will be left. It belongs to the world of great competition. It's only right for you to return to the Jia school. It's also the truth of heaven and earth to fight for a chance of survival. Heaven and earth will return to one. Clear the heavenly tribulation. Only the spirit race will be left. That's right. Since it's a clear heavenly tribulation, then the countless right and wrong in the past will end in this tribulation. And for a long time, the ones who have the most grievances are the dragons, phoenixes, Chilans, the Azura Lich, the Western Sex Jia school, and naturally the human race. Primordial Beginning said with a straight face, in such a clear heavenly tribulation, it's not surprising that a saint will fall in the end. Therefore you can return at this time. Tong Tian took a deep breath. However, since I've already understood the cause and effect of my return this time, it's useless to understand. The situation is irreversible. Moreover, you're still unwilling to accept it. Primordial Beginning said with a straight face, you can let go of the countless years of conflict in your heart, but can your disciples let go? If they can't let go, how can they clear the sky? The great Tao is heartless. It's a rule that all living beings have feelings. The world of great competition is the time when karma ends. There are many things. Perhaps everyone feels that it's useless, but I've really exhausted my mind to sort out such a line. Novels are one-sided. Everyone has read it. Just laugh and scold. There's no need to take it seriously. Chapter 1380. Tong Tian was silent for a long time. His body was still trembling slightly and he lowered his head slightly. Although he had regained his wisdom and understood the cause and effect of the past, Tong Tian was still uneasy. The original intention of the past was that the eldest brother and the second brother spent a lot of effort to control the situation in order to protect themselves. I can understand this intention. If I still insist that I don't understand, I won't be a saint. But it's still a pity for my disciples back then that they were all lives. They didn't know anything and were taught by me bit by bit. For thousands of years they were by my side. Why did the situation suddenly change? Why did the whole world target them? Thousands of disciples of the Jia school died an unnatural death. On the Immortals Slaying Array, on the 10,000 Immortals Array. Countless disciples sacrificed themselves for him, and he could still remember the shouts and cries in his ears. Master, I'm going? Which of my disciples isn't cute? Why did they trigger the heavenly tribulation? Thank you, eldest brother and second brother, for your love. Tong Tian sighed. But I still can't calm down. It's hard to forget the enmity. Tong Tian sighed and said, this heart is hard to calm down. Tong Tian solemnly thanks my 2 elder brothers for your care and consideration, but I still feel that it's not worth it for my disciples. Even though the great Tao is heartless, it's still a life. The original intention of the Jia school is to seize a chance of survival, but they can't be saved. Yuanshi said with a straight face, Tong Tian, you're a real person. True temperament, true meaning, but your truth is really not suitable for stirring up clouds and rain, not suitable for scheming. What's suitable for you should be willful, loyal, and righteous. You should be in the pugilistic world and travel the world. Yes, your true nature is a fatal flaw in the face of the great Tao of ruthlessness. It will only lead to a disaster. The most important thing for the heavenly Tao is to maintain balance. You're loyal and righteous. You've unintentionally expanded your Jia school infinitely, but you've fundamentally broken the balance of living beings. I hope you won't forget this lesson. Eldest brother and I have thought that it's already the limit for you to go through the great God-confirming tribulation. Yuanshir said, after this tribulation I hope you will be free from now on. Everyone fell into deep thought. Since time immemorial, the world has always been in balance. What's wrong with that? Jane asked. Even the demon ancestor, Styx, and Imperial June agreed with this statement. Yes, heaven and earth were in balance. The people were the people, and the various races were balanced. He would not allow anything to break the balance, nor would he allow any race that broke the balance to grow. At the same time, he would not allow any race to be completely destroyed. Zhuoxiaoduo could not help but be moved. He said, if there is a world where all races are equal, where there is no restriction, and where the strong are respected, perhaps the hierarch's idea will be regarded as the truth. The saint smiled faintly. That kind of world? Since ancient times, when had there ever been such a thing? This kid was just spouting nonsense, making irresponsible remarks. Tong Tian sighed. There was a trace of yearning in his eyes. He said, if there really is such a world, my Jia sect will definitely be the ruler of the world. However, at that time the Jia sect will no longer be called Jia sect. Zhuoxiaoyan asked curiously, then what should it be called? The Tong Tian sect leader was fascinated by the world that Zhuoxiaoduo was talking about. He explained with a good temper, at that time, the Jia sect should be called the Holy Sect of All Spirits. Holy Church of All Spirits? That's a good name. It's straight to the point and explains the root. Zhuoxiaoduo praised from the bottom of his heart. Yuanshir, Tong Tian, Jane, Kundi, and Hudu all took a deep look at Zhuoxiaoduo at the same time. Next was the meeting of the saints. What do you want to say about the life and death of all races? Styx's ancestor, who had recovered slightly, was the first to speak. The Ashura tribe will be the first to withdraw from the dispute. But after that there was silence for a long time. The meaning of the various forces was obvious. The Ashura tribe had caused so much karma. Could you withdraw just because you said so? You don't look good, but you're dreaming. Styx's ancestor's eyes darkened. He said in a hoarse voice, the heavenly way is constant. Do you really want the Ashura tribe to be annihilated? Still no one spoke. Everyone's face was extremely cold. Obviously, Styx's ancestors' past actions had angered everyone. Under such an immeasurable calamity, it was inevitable that he would be targeted. The Spirit Tribe. The Spirit Emperor had just spoken when his eyes turned to Wan Minxing. Obviously, the change of the saint position just now had changed the situation. In terms of personal power in this hall, although he was the Spirit Emperor, he was far less powerful than Wan Minxing when it came to the future direction of this immeasurable calamity. Wan Minxing pondered for a moment and said in a deep voice, the Spirit Tribe will go with the flow. Everyone nodded inwardly. The sentence of going with the flow had a deep meaning. It seemed to have made his position clear, yet he practically didn't say anything. The Demon Tribe will accompany you to the end. Rahu, the demon ancestor, raised his head. The Demon Tribe will never admit defeat. We can retreat by ourselves, but we won't allow others to sweep us out. The Taoist tribe is the human tribe. But since the two tribes have been separated, there's no need to mix them together. Yuanshir said lightly, but the Taoist tribe promises that the saints won't take part in this immeasurable calamity. Tong Tian frowned and said, second brother, you only took yourself out? Yuanshir said lightly, no, I took you and me out. Are you not a Taoist tribe saint? Or do you want to deny my decision? Tong Tian sighed heavily and was speechless. The Western sect. The Western sect. Jane wanted to say something, but he changed his mind after glancing at Zhuanti. He said, the Western sect. We won't take part in this immeasurable calamity. Buddha said, the Wu people gradually declined at the end of the primitive age. Now our strength is far inferior to the other tribes. It's difficult for us to survive. Now we have to fight with all our strength. Otherwise, there will be no place for the Wu people in this world. Everyone was silent. Huda's words were undoubtedly true. The Wu people were in such a situation now. If they didn't fight with all their strength, they would be overthrown by this immeasurable calamity. The Dragon tribe will never withdraw. The Phoenix tribe will never withdraw. The Kailan tribe will never withdraw. At this moment, Zhuoxiaoduo saw that everyone was looking at him, and a sense of mission arose spontaneously. It seemed that he was representing the human tribe. In an instant, he felt a surge of hot blood. He spoke on behalf of the human tribe, impassioned. If the human tribe can win, we won't take a step back. If we can't win, we won't fight blindly. We still have to retreat strategically. When everyone heard this, black lines appeared on their foreheads. You're so generous. We thought you were going to fight to the death. But look at the result. Don't you know that your sudden flirtatious words have hit us in the back? What do you mean we won't fight blindly? Retreat strategically? Isn't it just running away if we can't win? What's the difference between your words and not saying anything? However, the representative had already spoken. No matter how unreliable he was, he still had to hold it in. In the end, the Prime of Tong Tian was the one holding the fort. The Prime of Tong Tian said softly, "We, the Jie sect, don't care about life and death. We just want to have a clear mind. We want to take back what others owe us. We want to return what we owe others. After we settle our grudges, we will leave this world. We won't leave if we don't get back. We won't give up if we don't return an inch. Ending karma is our goal for the rest of our lives." The Prime of Tongtian's toughness made the primeval Lord of Heaven and Jane feel helpless. All the reasons were explained clearly to him, and he even admitted it. However, for the Prime of Tongtian, all the reasons were not as important as the word love. I understand. I understand. I understand. I understand. But you can't kill my disciples for nothing. My disciples can't die for nothing. It doesn't matter if you have good intentions or bad intentions. What I believe is that karma is karma and grudges are grudges. Maybe I owe you, but my disciples don't. I admit that I owe them. But you still have to pay for the grievances my disciples have suffered. There's nothing to say. That's what I believe is fair. Yes, that's what the Prime of Tongtian believes. Today, we're gathered here because of the change in the heavenly Tao. The primeval Lord of Heaven sighed and said, "I believe everyone is clear about the ins and outs of this. As for where we go from here on out, it all depends on our luck. From now on, the heavens of the 9 clans will be the battlefield." The primeval Lord of Heaven sighed slightly. He opened his eyes and looked tired. He looked around at everyone and said slowly, "There's no need to say more. I only hope that everyone can preserve their orthodoxy like the Western sect after this calamity." Everyone nodded silently. Many of them glared fiercely at Kundi, either early or late. It was precisely because Zhuan Ti defied the heavenly enlightenment tribulation and opened the sky in the calamity. He spread karma and scattered karma, causing the calamity to change. The heavenly Tao sensed everyone because of the changes in the calamity. It was no longer the same as before. That was why there was such a warning. How much karma must have been triggered to make the calamity take the initiative to sense it? This point was obvious, and when one thought about it carefully, it was extremely terrifying, shocking and terrifying. Furthermore, Zhuan Ti had given up the holy position as the price and spread the rest of the holy position throughout the entire human world, causing the entire ancestral land to be filled with the karma of the Western sect. At least in this calamity, the Western sect had already taken the initiative. No matter how the calamity evolved, no matter if they died in the end. However, the orthodoxy of the Western sect would definitely be able to survive. This was something that no one could change no matter who it was. What made the Demon Emperor Jun and the others the angriest was that because of the God-confirming tribulation back then, there were all kinds of karma entangling. The human race of Chan school and the Western sect had long formed an inseparable relationship. That also led to Zhuan Ti protecting the orthodoxy of the Western sect and the 3 sects of Chan school and Rin school. That was also the reason why the primeval Lord of Heaven and the Prime of Heaven did not really erupt, although they were very angry. Zhuan Ti's kindness towards the Chan school and the Rin school was not small. However, to Hutu Di Jun, Luo Ho, Mingyi, Ling Huang, and the others that was an extremely fucked up matter. Chapter 1381. Demon Emperor Jun and the others were all aggrieved. You were all prepared. You were sure that your forces would not be destroyed. Didn't that mean that we, who were not prepared, would be used as cannon fodder in this cultivation tribulation? Damn it. Did you ask for our opinion? If we were not careful, we would be represented? However, there was always fairness in the cultivation tribulation. That was the orthodoxy. The orthodoxy was preserved, but it did not mean that this race and this sect were preserved. In other words, everyone understood that as long as there were people in this world who preached Buddhism, then Buddhism existed in this world. As for whether Buddhism existed or not, it was another matter. There was an essential difference between the two. In other words, if Buddhism existed, the orthodoxy would still exist. This principle was very simple. However, even though Junti could accept it, others might not be able to accept it. Even if you were destroyed, your orthodoxy would still exist. If we were destroyed, would there be nothing left? There was no such logic in the world. Therefore, when everyone walked out of the Purple Cloud Palace, they were all angry. Was this fate? I don't believe in heaven. If heaven wants to destroy me, then I will go against heaven. Junti also went against heaven's initiation tribulation, which led to the current situation. If Junti can go against heaven, can't we? When Zhuoxiaoduo walked out of the Purple Cloud Palace, his heart was filled with confusion. Suddenly she came. Suddenly she left. In the middle, she heard some words in confusion and witnessed some things. But it seemed that she did not understand. Why did she come? Why did she leave? What happened in the middle? She was confused and in a trance the whole time. But as soon as everyone walked out of the Purple Cloud Palace, they immediately went their separate ways and disappeared without a trace, leaving the two of them behind. Damn, no one cares about us? Zhuoxiaoduo was a little annoyed. At least there should be a good beginning and a good ending, right? It seems that no one cares about us. We have to rely on ourselves for the return journey. Zhuoxiaoyan pouted. There was some panic in her eyes. She really felt that she had come into contact with a lot of great people and heard some incredible things. This was simply too horrifying. Xiaoduo, I'm afraid that these things here will have a far-reaching impact. We have to hurry back and tell Dad, Mom, and Godfather. All right. After making up their minds, the two of them quickly left and returned to the human race in the astral souls. After the leaders of the various clans left the Purple Cloud Palace, apart from Zhuoxiaoduo and Zhuoxiaoyan, there were 3 waves of attacks. Each of them was riddled with scars. Of course, there was no need to elaborate on this. Everything was as it should be. Their standpoint was already clear. If there was an opportunity to eliminate the enemy, it would be strange if they did not take action. Naturally, it was not strange at all. Zhuoxiaoduo decided to return almost immediately. They left as fast as they could, but they managed to avoid a lot of trouble. As soon as the two of them left, Demon Emperor Di Jun, Donghuang Taiyi, and Demon Empress Shihi tore through space and rushed back. Where is he? Why are you walking so fast? The 3 of them were a little depressed and they didn't know where to vent their anger. Demon Empress Shihi was especially disappointed. During this trip to the Purple Cloud Palace, the Demon Clan was naturally overjoyed to have obtained a sage position. However, the aura of the 3-legged golden crow on Zhuoxiaoduo's body also moved the 3 of them. They had been worried for a long time. However, due to various considerations, it was not a good time to make a big fuss. The 3 of them were not in a hurry. They did not expose this layer of karma on the spot. When this meeting came to an end, they would have plenty of time to figure out the situation. However, the 3 of them did not expect that as soon as they left the Purple Cloud Palace, they were pulled away by the Prime of Tongtian, who said that there was something important to discuss. However, after following them for a while, the Prime of Tongtian said that it was not a big deal and that it would not be too late to discuss it later. Hence he left on his own. The 3 of them had been fooled. When they came back to look for him, he was already gone. One could imagine how depressed they were. On the other side, Primeval Origin also left with Zhuan Ti and the demon ancestor Luo Ho. Well, to be more precise, it should be said that the 3 sages had taken the demon ancestor away. Regarding the joint invitation of the 3 of them, even someone as strong as the demon ancestor Luo Ho could only follow them to see what was going on. Unexpectedly, as they walked, Primeval Origin left on his own and disappeared halfway. Then, Zhuan Ti wanted to come back to take a look. Coincidentally, Luo Ho also wanted to come back to take a look. He was still thinking about the aura he had sensed on Zhuoxiaoduo. That was the aura of the god-slaying spear. He could not be wrong. However, Zhuan Ti also went back when Zhuan Ti suggested that they should hurry back. Luo Ho was naturally happy to see this happen. If the 2 sages of the West also went back, there would be more variables if they sensed the aura of the god-slaying spear on Zhuoxiaoduo. However, by the time Luo Ho came back to look for him, he would be even later than the 3 of them. Naturally, he would not be able to see anything. That kid is a human cub. Now that the war between the clans is a foregone conclusion, we will see him sooner or later. There is no need to rush. Everyone thought so. After all, they were all experienced experts who had cultivated for countless years. Their patience was far better than that of ordinary cultivators. In particular, they clearly realized that this kid seemed to be favored by all parties. Primeval Tongtian favored him a lot, which was publicly acknowledged by everyone present. There was also the junior of the Ling clan who had just attained the holy position. He seemed to be called Wan Minxing and had a deep relationship with him. If they really wanted to touch him, it would be difficult to do so. There would be many consequences. At least if they really used force. As long as they were not completely beaten to death, they might face primeval Tongtian Xuanti, or even Her Majesty Empress Wadat. If they faced all 5 of them at the same time, even the demon ancestor Luoho would probably die in an instant. It was rare to be lucky. What? The Flood Witch and Zhuochanglu were so shocked that they stood up together. After all, the news that Zhuo Xiaoduo brought back from his trip was too explosive. It was simply earth-shattering. Zhuochanglu was more concerned that the situation was so serious that it had gone out of control. At least, it was beyond the scope of what the human clan of the astral souls could deal with. Zhuochanglu, Wu Yuding, and the rest of the Star Soul Realm's upper echelons were not weak, but at the end of the day they were still considered aboriginals. They were humans who had only reappeared after the destruction of the continent. They did not have much of an impression of the people that Zhuo Xiaoduo had mentioned. However, because the Umno Alliance continent where the Flood Witch was born had been divided, it had not experienced the apocalypse. Therefore he still had a clear understanding of the inheritance of the old people and even the ancient legends. Whether it was the Shangqing, Yuqing, Taiqing, Xuanti. These people were all supreme immortals and Buddhas that only existed in legends. It was precisely because he knew about it that he was even more aware of how serious this matter was. To be able to make all of these existences jump out and make careful arrangements, it was not hard to imagine the scale of this cataclysm. All the saints gathered and rearranged their positions to deal with the great calamity. 9 saint positions? In the end there are only 8? There's still 1 left? The Flood Witch was very interested. There is indeed 1 empty seat, Zhuo Xiaoduo said. Oh. Flood touched his chin and couldn't help but be tempted. That was a saint position. He didn't know if he had the chance to sit on it. Elder One also got a saint position. The Flood Witch was even more envious. He could ignore everything in the world and didn't care. However, he couldn't ignore the saint position. Based on the Flood Witch's understanding of Elder Wan's cultivation base was naturally extremely high, even higher than his own. Even though he had already reached the level of Ancestor Sorcerer, there was still some difference in his cultivation base. However, in terms of combat strength she was much better. It was just that they belonged to the same camp, and Elder One had never been known for his combat strength. He only knew who was stronger and who was weaker. Therefore, the Flood Witch would not look for Elder One to test her skills. However, now, Elder One, who was not even in the top 3 in terms of combat strength in the 3 continents like the Astral Souls, actually got a saint position. This result made the Flood Witch feel like she had eaten a lemon. The root of her teeth was a little. Not very strong. However, the Flood Witch just thought about it and put this matter aside. Through Zhuo Xiaoduo's narration, he was very clear that although the position of a saint was good, it wasn't something that anyone could sit on. It wasn't based on one's cultivation base or combat strength. Otherwise, no matter who it was, it wouldn't be Wan Minxing Wan Lao's turn to take the position. Now that he sat on the saint position, it didn't mean that he was definitely a saint. In comparison, Huda Zhuwu had also appeared at this gathering and sat on a saint position. This made the Flood Witch more concerned and excited. Our Huda Zhuwu has appeared in the world again? And he sat on a saint position? As expected, the heavens are protecting our race. Our race has a chance to rise again. The Flood Witch was inexplicably excited. This was the first time in her life that she had heard news about a living Zhu Wu. This news was like a shot of adrenaline to the entire Wu people. Not to mention the fact that the man in white had said that the 8 ancestral sorcerers were still alive but had been sealed by someone. Although the Flood had already begun to investigate this matter, compared to the 8 ancestral magi who had been sealed and the situation was definitely hidden and difficult to investigate, the ancestral magi of Earth who had reappeared were the seniors of the magi who were easier to find and contact. The more the Flood Witch thought about it, the more excited she became. Gradually she lost her composure. How many years had it been? The Wu people had always been walking in the cracks. No matter what kind of strong enemies they faced, they had to fight by themselves. They didn't have anyone to rely on. They could only swallow their broken teeth and swallow their blood. They could only cultivate harder to become stronger and avoid being bullied by others. The main reason why the Wu people had been fighting against the astral souls, the human race, and even the Tao League was that they didn't want to lose their sense of crisis. The other 11 of the 12 great shamans weren't great shamans from the beginning. Every one of them had fought and been beaten up countless times since they were young. Well, half of them were beaten up by their opponents and the other half was beaten up by the Flood Witch. The flood which was able to become the #1 great shaman early on for a reason. His existence had never been surpassed. Now, the return of the various races had cast a long shadow over the Wu people's heads. No matter if it was the monster race, the Tao League, or the demon ancestor. Everyone knew that the Wu people were no match for them. But no one in the Wu people thought about retreating. No matter what we face, we only have one thought: to charge forward. If we don't charge forward to fight back, what hope do the Wu people have? On the other hand, if we charge forward and still can't fight back, the Wu people will still be finished. Since we're going to be finished, why don't we fight with all our might? Fight to be the first to die, and let the Wu people be destroyed after we die. The flood which didn't have a worthy opponent like Zhuochanglu when he first started fighting against the astral souls. The 7 swords of the Tao League could definitely suppress the flood which, but the other great shamans of the Umno Alliance weren't there for show. Why wouldn't they join forces with their opponents? The reason was simple. The Umno Alliance never planned to destroy the astral souls in the Tao League. It was because they didn't have any helpers, allies, or people to rely on. They used tens of thousands of years of fighting to cultivate their competitors, so that they could become their allies in the future. But not everyone could become their allies. They had to have enough strength, enough weight, and enough value. The flood which waited for a long time, but he only met Zhuochanglu. The others, even the leader of the Tao League, Taoist Lei, couldn't catch his eye. Facts also proved that the flood witch's waiting and cultivation of competitors had indeed improved the overall strength of the Umno Alliance. It had also allowed him to rise to the top of the Wu people, the realm of Zhu Wu. However, when the Grandmaster of Heaven shot his sword into the 9 heavens and announced his return, the flood witch was still so envious that his eyes turned blue. Look at his master. Look at his senior. Look at him. Whatever happened, someone would step forward and make decisions. But now Huda Zhu Wu had also reappeared in the world, although she hadn't come back yet. But there are still shamans in this world. The flood which roared as if she was venting her anger, and all of a sudden, he also firmly believed in another sentence, the sentence that had not been verified yet. Brother Zhua. The flood which turned around and said, in a few days the Wu people will take action. This will have a far-reaching impact on the future and is very significant. I hope you can help us when the time comes. Zhuochanglu smiled and said, are you talking about going to the Demon Emperor's palace to try to save Zhu Wu? That's right. Aren't you afraid that it's a trap? The man in white must be from the Western sect. It's not surprising that they used us to weaken the strength of the demon race. But they wouldn't set up such a trap for no reason, especially one that doesn't benefit them. Moreover, the person who said that was most likely one of the 2 saints of the Western sect. Saints, their words are law. The flood witch said. In that case, let's go. Zhuochanglu said, but it's not good to have too many people involved. I mean, we can't have more than 10 people, and we have to be very careful about the choice of people. Dan Kong can skillfully control the power of space. He can go. Raging fire can go. Poison can also go. If Jin Lin can improve his resistance, he can also go. The Wind Emperor has comprehended the speed of wind. He can increase the movement speed of all of us, so he can also go. The flood witch said, on our side, the 6 of us will be the main force. But after thinking about it again and again, I'm sure we don't have enough high-end combat power. If we are intercepted by the Demon Emperor, we can't even escape unscathed, let alone save Zhu Wu. And Brother Zhua and Madame, after splitting open the sky, their strength has improved further. In terms of combat power, they should have reached the level of sage to be. Flood's words were full of embarrassment. After so many years in his life, this was the first time he asked for help. He talked a lot and finally got to the key point. Zhuochanglu laughed, don't worry, Brother Hong. Ting-er and I will go to help. I think the 8 of us will be enough. Flood smiled, thank you. Zhuoxiaoduo raised his hand, Dad, Godfather, Nyin Cat and I will go too. Let's make 10 people. It'll be perfect. Do you think you're on the same level as saints because you went to some meeting by chance? What are you going to do? You'll only make trouble if you go. The flood witch, Zhuochanglu and Wu Yuding all scolded, you don't know the immensity of heaven and earth. We're very powerful now. How can we only make trouble? Zhuoxiaoyan was not convinced and said with her cheeks puffed up. Wu Yuding stood up with a livid face, let's go. I'll fight with you. I'd like to see how hard your wings are. Mom. Zhuoxiaoduo rolled his eyes submissively. Mom. Zhuoxiaoyan rolled her eyes blatantly. Open your void-destroying tower. Get in here. Wu Yuding was aggressive. This time she must teach these 2 little things an unforgettable lesson. I'll let you two know that the world is big and there are many masters. Your mother is still your mother. Teaching you two a lesson is still like playing a game. I'll let you two young cucumbers know that the older the ginger, the spicier it is. Zhuoxiaoduo and Zhuoxiaoyan followed in dejectedly. Zhuochanglu and the flood which looked at each other and restrained their momentum as much as possible and followed in. After all, as far as they knew, at least not long ago, the void-destroying tower was gradually unable to bear the momentum of the flood which had reached Zhu Wu's level. They had been in the world of the painting for thousands of years. Thousands of years of life and death were just a hair's breadth away from each other. They could easily end up in the netherworld, forever separated by heaven and man. Xiao felt that he had lived up to the name of the three-legged golden crow by not breaking down. Yan Shirsi felt that he had lived up to the original god-slaying spear by being able to keep his body and soul intact. Bai and Jiao were in the same boat as them. They had not come out yet. Well, there was another gourd inside, one that came with Grandpa Tuesday. The three gourds combined could fight against Grandpa Tuesday. Although Bai and Jiao were still trapped in the world of the painting that Grandpa Tu had created, as long as another person intervened, this experience would come to an end. This situation made Grandpa Tu, who had been very successful recently, furious. He vented all his anger on the Wahuang sword, who was of the same generation as him. He caught the Wahuang sword spirit and beat it up, but it was not enough. Gradually he beat it 3 times a day. Later, the Wahuang sword's elder was reduced to a servant who served Grandpa Tu, who had a bad temper, to avoid being beaten up. However, he often got beaten up because he did not serve Grandpa too well. Now the Wahuang sword missed Zhuoxiaoduo very much. Although Zhuoxiaoduo was a despicable person who had reached the invincible realm, he was just a despicable person. This hateful Tai Chi diagram was not just a despicable person. Bai and Jiao came out and jumped onto the diagram. Big brother too, when are you going to introduce third brother to our mama? He still has a stomach full of elixirs to give. There's no hurry. Grandpa too liked Bai and Jiao very much. Hurry up and give me a bit more of your life force. This is the right thing to do. Your big brother too is greedy. A few 100 cubic meters will do. You don't look very good, but you're dreaming. A purple gold gourd rushed out with a whoosh. You deceive children every day and steal their snacks. How can you be so shameless? I really despise you. You've lived for so long, but you've degenerated to this extent. What do you know? How can the two of them finish using those things? Can't you see that they're already familiar with each other? What's the point of eating those things? If a child drinks milk when he's 3 years old, will he still drink milk when he's 30 years old? Why don't you say that you're already millions of years old, but you still want to trick children into drinking milk? How can you open your mouth like that? Old bastard. I'm just helping. For a moment, the three gourds and Grandpa too were arguing. At this moment, a rumbling sound came from outside. It was easy to tell from the sound that someone was fighting. Mommy's coming in. Bai and Jiao rushed out in joy. At the side, Xiao instantly transformed from a teenager into a 3-legged golden crow. He was still at a loss, and his 2 round eyes were full of embarrassment. He stood back and forth on his 3 legs, vividly displaying his uneasiness. She seemed to be a little embarrassed? Grandpa Tu and the Wahuang sword were very interested when they saw this. 7th young master, have you recovered your memories? The Wahuang sword whistled gloatingly. Whoosh, 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 whoosh. Grandpa Tu said sarcastically, the 7th prince of the demon emperor is going to forget his new mother's saving grace, raising grace, nurturing grace and nurturing grace. The moment he spoke he was an old yin yang. As expected of a noble descendant, as expected of the demon emperor's bloodline, as expected of the 3-legged golden crow. TSK. You don't even need to practice to turn your back on others. You're self-taught and you can use it freely. You're at the peak of perfection and you can do whatever you want. I really hate that I couldn't be born in a royal family, so that I could have such mental fortitude. You're tuning in to the Dreamy Chapters YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.